Guys, welcome back to another episode of A2 The Show. Today, we have a very interesting guest. We have Cyril Aris. He is a Lebanese director and screenwriter and a member of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. His feature, A Sad and Beautiful World 2025, premiered at Venice, won multiple festival awards, has become Lebanon's Oscar nomination. His documentaries Dancing on the Edge of a Volcano and The Swing premiered at Karlovy Vary and won several international awards. His short The President's Visit premiered at TIFF and earned Oscar qualifying wins. Aris holds an MFA from Columbia University and has editing and producing credits on acclaimed films including Costa Brava, Lebanon, and Submarine. And also, he has an engineering degree, something that wasn't I didn't expect. Was Can you tell us more about how that started and how did you diverge into film?
Yeah. Actually, I have a bachelor in engineering in electrical engineering, and then when I first started working, I worked in management consulting for a few years. I had always been super passionate with films and cinema, and that's ever since I was a child, I wanted to work in that. But then when you're in Beirut and you graduate from high school and you're 17, 18, and you're like, I want to make movies. People look at you like, good one. Now
Go
go
find
get
a
a
good
real
job.
degree, and then we'll see. And then I understood that I probably needed what I would like to call a safety net.
Yeah.
So being quite passionate with math, physics, I thought that engineering would be the right way. And there is also this common understanding that a bachelor in engineering is almost like a second baccalaureate. You're going to learn a way of thinking, problem solving skills, a way of addressing problems which can be relevant across all industries, and that can transcend the actual realm of engineering. So I did that, and then I started working for a year or so in software development, but I really didn't like it. I felt that I wasn't very good at it. I can write code, it's fine, but I could see around me that there's people who just have it in their blood.
Yeah.
This logic of coding and software development is something that I simply didn't have. So I went into management consulting because I thought I would try something that is more strategy oriented management, consulting, even finance. And I did have a great time there. I worked for Boots and Company at the time. I was based in like my home office was the Beirut office, but all my projects were in Saudi and Bahrain and Dubai. So I worked there, and I don't regret at all having worked there because it taught me skills again, problem solving skills, and a way of looking at problems and addressing problems in a way that can transcend the scope of just the management consulting job. And it's something that I use in my daily life and even in my film directing work. Uh, and yeah, after 2 years of doing that, I had started doing some film work on the side, and I just couldn't keep up with both careers at the same time, and I took the decision of ending one for the benefit of the other, which at the time I was told was not necessarily the wise choice, but I I did have the support of my family and fellow coworkers who were like, you seem to be extremely passionate with that, and you've been talking about wanting to work in film for
Mm.
a decade now, so just go ahead, do it, get it out of your system, and then if you need to come back, you can come back. I remember vividly when I spoke to the partner in charge at Booth and Company. He told me, well, why don't you take a sabbatical instead of just quitting? I said, yeah, but most likely I'm not coming back. I don't want to have that promise hanging. He's like, listen, I'll just register you as a sabbatical for 2 years, okay? It's supposed to be 1 year, but we'll do it 2 years, and it's okay if you don't come back. But let's just put it this way. And I said, yeah, and I never went back. But I'm still in touch with some of the coworkers. And again, I know that it sounds extremely distant from the film world, but what I learned in engineering and management consulting really shaped my way of thinking.
Do you mind if you give us like an example of how did you use your engineering skills in the film
Well,
industry?
Well, when you're a film director, you're in charge of so many different departments. There is the cinematography department, the production design, which is like the sets and
Yeah.
the decor, and then you have the sound, the cinematography, the sound. You have the makeup, the costume. You have all of these different streams that all have to be aligned to fulfill one singular vision or one particular goal, and it could look it could get very chaotic unless your brain is trained to really think one stream at a time and one department at a time and trying to address these problem and trying to find the the common thread in how each little details in every department is ultimately going to give you an overall cinematic experience that is going to make you feel something that is in line with your own interpretation of the script into into sights and sounds, into like visuals and sound and music.
It's also pretty chaotic working with Lebanese cast and staff, right? I would say.
Well, the chaos I don't think comes from from the talent themselves. I think we have incredibly talented people in Lebanon, and they're extremely professional when it comes to the film industry. The chaos comes more from everything's around us, everything that is beyond our control.
Yeah.
On Sad and Beautiful, for example, on this last film, every day we would wake up with the rhetoric of Netanyahu saying we're going to turn Beirut into a second Gaza. We're going to invade southern Lebanon. We're going to do this and that. So you're constantly, living with this threat and the drones that are roaming in the skies and Shidar Sot, like the sonic booms, etc. So there is this immense pressure cooker that is all around you and that is beyond your control. Or when I think of Munya Aql's film, which I edited and shot dancing on the edge of a volcano, the documentary around it. It was also in the aftermath of the August 4th port explosion, the devaluation of the currency. For example, they had some of the film funds that were in the banks that just evaporated.
Yeah. That's,
And go ahead and try to explain that as Lebanese producers to your European co-producers and your American counterparts of like, yes, you did send the money, and yes, we did receive the money, but that money is no longer available, and we don't know how to account for it. And for them, they don't understand this principle of, but I sent you money, and where is that money, and why is it not being reported in the books? The banks collapsed. Our currency devaluated. So the real dollar is not a real dollar anymore. The 100K you sent are actually the equivalent of 50K or 30K, or depending on the timing of the question. So I feel that the chaos comes from that, from the social context, the political context, and the regional conflicts that are beyond our control, much more than the talent and the people themselves.
of course. And so, and going on that point, like, how do you convince then investors to come and help produce a movie in Lebanon?
That's a very good question. That's why that's why it takes years. That's why it takes years. But I'll use the example of A Sad and Beautiful World because it's the latest example. Uh, this film is a co-production between Lebanon, of course,
Mhm.
Germany, the U.S., Saudi Arabia, and Qatar, and each country has its own contribution. So when it comes to Germany, for example, what you do is you apply for funds, which are public funds, and they each have conditions. So when it comes to the German fund specifically, you have to spend the money in Germany, a certain percentage or all of it, depending
Okay.
on the fund. Which means that you end up hiring German people or doing aspects of the post-production in Germany, which is our case. In in our case, we had the camera. We shipped it from Germany because Arri Alexa is a German company. We had the lenses shipped from Germany. We did parts of the post production in Germany, like the grading and the finishing and the DCPs. So all of that, you find ways to spend that money in Germany. There are some French funds we had that are destined for the third world, uh, the countries from the south is what they call them. The countries from from the south. So it's funds that are destined to support countries with weaker infrastructure. So typically countries in the Arab world, countries in Africa. It's part of the cultural, I would say, expansion that the French have. They want to support French-speaking countries and things like that. Um, when it comes to the U.S., for example, it's mostly equity investors that are, for the most part, from Lebanese or Lebanese Americans. So it's either Lebanese people who work in tech and who would like to support Lebanese talent, who would want to get involved in 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 the art business. They don't necessarily see it as the most lucrative investment, but for them it's a mixture of, well, I like the script, I like the team, I like the director, I like the film, I want to try to support that, and with a financial waterfall that would heavily favor the equity. So when the film recoups money, typically the equity gets rewarded first. So that's yeah, for the American system, because in the US there's no real access to public funds. It's not like Europe. Europe, it's part of the culture to support these types of co-productions, to support their local artists and these types of co-productions, because it's European taxpayers' money that's being reinvested into their own system. So it's supporting their local artists, and at the same time it's bridging gaps and creating cultural exchanges between their own residents and people from Lebanon, people from Africa, people from Asia. So that's how they see it. When it comes to Saudi Arabia and Qatar, Saudi Arabia actually has quite a big fund. It's the biggest in the Arab world right now. It's called the Red Sea Film Fund, and it's supported by the Red Sea Film Festival, and it's heavily backed by the Saudi government. And it's a fund that goes anywhere between 10 million and 14 million, and that is just what you would call free money in the support of Arab cinema and African cinema, and more recently they've expanded to Asian cinema as well. And because it's been a few years now that Saudi Arabia is trying to position themselves as a cultural player in the region.
Mm-hmm.
And the best way to do that would be to support Arab talents and African talents from that region. And since it's such an attractive grant, because you can actually spend the money in the local country, everyone applies for it. So it's become one of the most competitive grants in the Arab world, because everyone is trying to get a piece of it. And as a result, they're reading the best projects that are being made all across the Arab world, and they get to pick and choose. And they really surround themselves with the best people in terms of curation, in terms of the festival that they're organizing. Same thing with the Doha Film Institute, but at a bit of a smaller scope. They used to be the cultural leader with their fund until the Saudis came in and made a more, I would say, aggressive fund by simply increasing the number of the grants that they're giving, but also the number of projects that they're supporting. So it's a healthy competition that's happening between all of these different countries in the Gulf when it comes to the cultural world. I'm talking mostly about cinema, but that's also applicable to visual art, music, and dance, and all kinds of cultural endeavors.
Okay. And culturally, what is like the impact that it's been having now that Saudi Arabia is trying to position themselves as the top, media entertainment sector? Because like in the past, it was we used to look at Egypt as
Correct.
that, as like the main representative for cinema, and all of the talent
Correct.
from Lebanon, Syria would all go to Egypt. Now that Saudi Arabia is taking that role, how is the narrative shifting for them?
It's a good question. I don't know if I'm the best to address that. And first of all, being Lebanese and not Saudi, but also I think it takes a few years to really see the results, because when it comes to TV, like Ramadan series
Yeah,
and this kind of TV, it's still being outsourced to Egypt. It's still happening.
Syria as
Well, it
well.
used to happen in Syria also before the war. There is a number of series that are being shot in Lebanon as well. Um, but yeah, it seems now that things are being a bit more outsourced and a bit more um, spread across the region. So we used to be the hub for commercials, for shooting commercials and exporting them in the Arab world because of the level of talent we have, but also the freedom that are given to the creative sector when it comes to shooting an ad here, and or a commercial or a music video, or having that cultural freedom.
Right.
But now, yes, there are a number of commercials that are being shot in Dubai. There are some that are being shot in Saudi Arabia, and now recently, the past few days, actually, Qatar has announced a tax incentive to try to attract productions into their own country. So they're offering rebates of, it's still very, very new, but I think it goes to like 40%, something like that. I still have to look into it, but yeah, they are copying a bit the European model of trying to offer tax incentives and rebates, and also have a set of conditions where you have to collaborate or cooperate with uh, a production house based in Qatar, and try to hire Qatari talents. So
Mhm.
it seems that there's all this very healthy competitions in trying to attract film productions into each of these countries. But Saudi, what they're doing quite well also is they're really raising the next generation of Saudi filmmakers, because I think they do understand that you cannot create a Saudi film industry overnight.
Yeah.
And while they do have a number of established directors, they really want to go full scale and have like a really proper industry. So they're organizing a number of screenwriting workshops and directing workshops, and attracting the top talents from Europe, the US, and the Arab world, and getting them to teach in Saudi, to organize workshops. And we feel, every time I'm in Saudi, I feel that the youth is extremely receptive to these training workshops, and they're very hungry for it. And
Yeah.
it seems that they're very aware of the privilege that they're having in having a government that is so, or
Supportive
a
of them.
ministry of culture that has this long-term vision of, we want to train them, and we know that in the next 15, 20, 25 years, we're going to have a real generation of Saudi filmmakers that can probably become really the leaders in the Arab world.
Wow, that's amazing to hear. I mean, that seems like they have a very long term vision there, and you'd wish that Lebanon had a bit more of that support. Like when it comes to the
The
government.
thing, look, the thing about Lebanon is that there is kind of a film industry in a way, but it's very organic, and it's very it thrives on co-productions mostly. So
Yeah,
since we don't have a real Lebanese fund, because again, the country is in such
it's
um,
unstable.
mi-
It's,
exactly, there's a mismanagement and instability, and really culture is the first department that that suffers from it. and we tend to see this in countries that try to readjust after economic crisis and turmoil. Usually, it's the culture department. It's the first one that goes. It's like, okay, no one cares about this. Let's reduce all the funds here. You see that with Argentina, for example, with the arrival of Milei, everything that's film funds, that was like the first thing of out, or in Brazil with Bolsonaro as well. Typically, culture is the one thing they attack, but that's quite short sighted because when there's a famous exchange with Churchill during World War II, where they were reallocating budget and things like that, and one of his ministers told him, well, culture, like that's, clearly we can remove this one, and Churchill was like, no, you don't touch this one, because otherwise, what are we fighting for?
Right.
So
No, that's very fair. Because like culture is definitely, it gives identity for people when they, it gives them a bit of a purpose, and it motivates them
it's a
to be
soft power
connected
as
to
well.
it. It's
It's a
definitely a
soft
soft power.
power. I mean,
It connects you more to your
it's
country, I would say.
it's no it's no coincidence that the US has such a cultural hegemony
Mm.
that is in line with their film industry and their music industry and the entire entertainment industry, which is one of their biggest export, because they understand the value, beyond the capitalistic and commercial aspect of it, the value
Yeah.
of just having American culture spread throughout the world, that everyone speaks English, everyone
Yeah.
kind of learns English because of the movies and the songs and all of that, and is only now being challenged with the rise of K-pop and these the
Yeah.
Asian waves of cinema and TV. So I think the cultural war is much more important than one would think.
Mhm.
When it comes to establishing soft power, and I think that's also why the French, for example, they have um, so, such a big number of funds that create co-productions between France and uh, countries in South America, countries in the Arab world and Africa. I wouldn't say it's colonialism per se, but it's this. I think it's a remnant of this mentality of we have to spread our culture and the francophone culture across these countries to keep some kind of a soft power over these countries.
So would you say that maybe cinema is also used as a political tool at times for like major powers?
I think that it had always have that kind of social and political role, and that became quite apparent in. It started really in the 50s and in the 60s in Italy and in France with Italian neorealism and the French New Wave, where filmmakers and artists started using this art form to spread, at the time, more left-wing ideas, more socialist ideas,
Yeah.
and to really support a more left-leaning revolution that was happening in the 60s. And I would go even beyond that. In the 1920s, the Russians started using cinema to spread very socialist ideas, and to kind of show the Communist Party as the and an entity that is here to save the Russian culture. So they understood the power of cinema and the power of images for cultural propaganda, I would say, because at the
Hmm.
time it was
Yeah.
like straight on propaganda, but showing like the common man that is struggling against the high class and the elite and the capitalistic factory owners, and then you empathize with that worker, and you want him to win, and then they all unite, and it was shot in a very realistic way. We say that the Russians really invented realism in the
Mhm.
1920s by showing these characters that people would heavily empathize with and relate to, and see them win and believe in the power unions and syndicates and the revolution, and it really started that way. And then we kind of lost that when Hollywood went through its golden era, and it was very much about like the stars and the Humphrey Bogart and the Ingrid Bergman, and people would go to watch these insanely attractive and handsome actors and actresses, and kind of look up to them until Europeans, specifically the Italians and the French, brought back the social and political power of these of this art form.
And so I'm curious about how uh, you seem like you really enjoyed these points, these different influences of cinema, and I wanted to a bit segue into the movies that you've made, especially like the Sad and Beautiful Truth. Sorry,
It's a
Truth.
beautiful world.
The world.
Yeah.
I don't know why the last word I couldn't memorize it for the sake of it, but and when we were talking about depth of movies, like for example with American cinema, whenever like when you watch American movies, you don't see there isn't that much of like cultural depth or like raw emotions and stuff. It's purely just I think the most popular movies are usually around something that has to do or connected to capitalism, or maybe something like the nuclear family where it's like living in the suburb. Like these are the two major images that popped in my head. But when it comes to like, for example, when we're watching the Sad and Beautiful World, this is like this is my reaction, me and Ali's reaction after we finished the movie. We literally sat there for 2 minutes and I think it was actually 3-4 minutes of silence. We didn't know what to say. And it was a roller coaster of emotions in a positive aspect because it literally takes you through. Hala, keep in mind, yeah, there's a lot of things happening in that, and also definitely all of the history of Lebanon happening in that movie, like across the timeline, is wow. And this is also another question I want to ask about, but the emotions going from like it's like slightly like a turbulent start, and then it starts like really happy, and then it ends also like in a way it's like a bit slightly upsetting, but also melodramatic. Where did you get that? Yani, where did you get that line of emotions? Like, put it across the movie. How did you know that this is how it's gonna go?
Yeah, well, you know, uh, initially I was trying to explore that relationship between
Yeah,
these two antagonistic forces of nature, two very polar opposite
yeah,
viewpoints on their country and on the world. One is highly optimistic and kind of delulu in in some way. You would think like like very happy-go-lucky, always um, looking at the bright side, which is a significant portion of the Lebanese as well,
yeah,
who choose to only focus on the bright side and just assume that it's all going to work out for the best. While she is the complete opposite, and she's much more down to earth, much more realistic, and that makes her cynical
mm,
eventually, because she lives in a country that is quite pessimistic and quite dark at times, and putting these two together and trying to see how this relationship evolves over time was one of the goals of the of the film. And I believe that it wouldn't be very truthful if Lebanon is constantly going through tragedies and crisis and wars and turmoil and upheavals constantly for 2 hours, because I feel that this does not reflect the Lebanon that I grew up in, that I was born in, I grew up in, and evolved in. There
yeah,
are periods of peace and prosperity and vibrancy, and it is a good place to be,
mm,
and it's not all just tragedy and misery. And I feel that our dynamics and our relationships are quite affected by how well the country is doing all around us.
yeah,
So we feel that when there's a wave of optimism and a wave of positive energy, you feel that okay, things are fine, and things we have happy phases. But then when we go through another war or another crisis, then you feel that people are tense even among each other, and you feel that it shapes really and affects the dynamics between society.
Yeah.
And there's no way you can make abstraction of that political background in Lebanon, because even if you choose to isolate and stay in your home and just close the blinds and not pay attention to anything, well, guess what? Your money in the bank is gone, and there's the port explosion that is going to blow up your house, and you won't have access to funds to even fix your house. So there's I feel that we are very much a product of the social context around us. So the relationship is very much stained and affected by all of that. And what ends up happening throughout the film is they start swapping roles and swapping positions. So
Yeah.
they bring the best out of each other. He brings this dormant dreamer that's within her, or this innocent child that was buried way too early in her childhood. So
Yeah.
he does bring that and teaches her to look at the world with a more positive viewpoint. And she brings some sense of calm and some sense of um, acknowledgement of his pains and his sorrows, so he can actually move on in life and and learn and overcome his traumas, because he is the product of a lot of unresolved traumas, which makes which propels him into these extremes of intense happiness but then intense depression, because when he experiences sadness, it's not like her. She's been trained all of her life to expect sadness and expect
Yeah.
the worst outcome and be prepared for it. But him, no, not at all. So when all the tragedies pile up, it we feel that it really takes a heavy toll on him.
Mm.
And again, I see that very much so in people around me, going through the 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022 period, going through
Yeah.
this euphoria resulting from the 2019 revolution, all the way to the complete collapse of the country, and seeing Beirut with no electricity, completely dark, devoided of its residents,
Yeah.
with hundreds of thousands of people having left, the sudden loneliness, and this harsh wake up call that the past decades were just a lie. They were built on wrong fundamentals, and they were just a lie.
Uh, my final question before I pass the baton to Ali. Um, how many times did it take to do the salt scene with Omar Leiza?
This is so funny, because my actor Tino Karam, wonderful actor. He's
Yeah.
uh, first time first time acting in a film like this, and he's such a comedic person and such a funny person to begin with, which is exactly the same with Omar Leiza, the comedian. That having these two energies in the same room was just hilarious. And in the script, the scene is that he brings the salt and just pours all the salt into the plate of Omar, okay, of
Yeah.
Omar's character. But then we were rehearsing a bit, and all of that, and Tina was like, I really dislike this Abdullah character. I feel I would do much more than just ruin his plate. I just want to take the salt and just pour it all over his head, and I'm like, okay. And Omar being very good with improv and all of that, I went to him. I told him, listen, I think the chef is like really pissed off at you, the character, of course. He's really pissed off, so he might take a take it up a notch. I don't know what's gonna happen,
Yeah.
but just play along. He's like, I'm ready. I'm ready for anything. I'm ready to kick his ass. I'm ready to do whatever you want. Like, okay, that's great. And I'm thinking that genuine reaction we're really gonna get only one time, which is the
Yeah.
first
No,
time it's
it was
it's
perfect.
it's gonna happen. So we rehearse the camera and the focus and all of that. Guys, this is a take that's gonna make it to the film. So So let's make it happen. And he was really caught by surprise by all the salt, throwing on him. And the first punch, he really punched him, and then after I called cut, he's like, "I'm so sorry. It was a natural reaction. I'm so sorry. It was an instinct. It was a reflex, and I'm so sorry." And that precise moment is the one we use in the film. But then then he knew. He knew he could expect it, and because we had coverage for the scene and multiple other angles, then we could stage it a bit better for camera. But that first moment is the one that you actually see in the film.
That was great, to be honest. It's great improvisation as well.
Yeah. But that's how I like to work with actors. Most of them are either acting for the first time or are not professional actors, and it's I always find it very rewarding, because I don't cast actors to say the lines the way I wrote them or I intend them. I usually cast the actor as a person. So Amar Leiza, for example, is such a funny. He has such a great sense of comedy. He's naturally funny. He can improvise and come up with lines that are better than the ones that I wrote. Same thing with the kids, for example. The kids, yes, I can be sitting here writing lines of a 9-year-old, but once you see the 9-year-old actor in front of you, they will say things their way. They will say "I love you" the way the way a 9-year-old would say "I love you" to another 9-year-old girl, for example, and it's not gonna be as clean or uh, as cliche as us adults we think of. Like he is gonna go and he's gonna try to flirt with her, and it's gonna be clumsy, and he's gonna be yeah, I don't know, I like your hair, I like your smile, and I like your hair. And she's like, my hair is like so random. It's like, no, your hair is like macaroni. It's nice. It's like random. It's awkward and it's messy and but that's how it is. That's how they naturally flirt. So I had to rewrite the scenes to include the way they speak and the lines that they come up with, in order to stay truthful and genuine to the ages and to the characters.
Wallah, chapeau bas, bro, على casting writing everything, and it's to the dot. It's great.
Thank you.
Ali,
Thanks.
It's on you now.
Thank you, Said. It only took me 38 minutes or something.
Divide it in half, project management.
For once, I don't have to keep track of time, because when you're on set, time is your worst enemy, and you never have enough time across all productions everywhere in the world, across all budgets. Like, there isn't a single film shoot, even like $200 million blockbusters they shoot in Hollywood. There's never enough time. So for once, I'm not keeping track of time, and it's on you.
That's a good feeling.
Now
Said,
now it's
I
on
just
Ali.
want to say
No, it's not on you.
happy
Yeah.
Thanksgiving, everyone. I appreciate you guys' time here today. I just want to start off by saying, Said, I'm very grateful for you. I'm very happy that, you're in my life. I mean, to be honest, I can't imagine my life without you. We've been on this journey making this podcast for so many years, and, you're a big part of my life, and I love you, man. No homo, but
Love you too.
incredible.
Making us
Some
very
real love.
emotional.
It's the film. It's the film. It's the film.
Cyril, I want to say I really appreciate you and all the work you've done. I mean, you've been making films for decades now, and finally you've gone up the ladder, and now you've made this masterpiece of cinema. So
Thank you
very
so much.
grateful
I'm very
for
flattered.
your art, and despite all the constraints that you've described, you've been able to make it to the top, and it shows that it really takes time and effort, and loving the process, right?
Well, it takes a lifetime. Actually, there's a famous letter that Kurosawa wrote to Bergman. So Kurosawa was on his deathbed, and he wrote to Bergman a letter, and I'm paraphrasing, but he says, I wish I could do one more film because I feel I've just gotten the hang of it. And you're talking about like a master of cinema
Wow.
after decades and decades of work, and to this day his films are regarded as masterpieces. But that's the beauty of the artistic process, is that you keep learning and you keep learning, and it's you get yourself in a situation where Godard said, my easiest film was my first film, and then it's just gotten harder since, because the more I know, the more complicated it becomes. First film, I had no idea, I was just playing, and it was great. So yeah, it takes a lifetime, and it's really about the process much more than the result. Of course, the result is important, but if you don't enjoy the process, then that's 99.9% of the time. So
Mm-hmm. I want to section up this next section of the pod into 3 parts. Let's say your childhood, you coming up as a working filmmaker in Beirut, when you still have the beautiful hair, and
exactly.
now, you made it to the top of the mountain with this film that's gonna be around forever. So let's start off with what was it like for you as a kid making, what inspired you to make
Okay.
movies? What were the movies that inspired you?
Okay. I think part of the question cut off, but I think you were asking about the childhood and the inspiration, correct?
Yes.
When I think of our childhood in Beirut, growing up in Beirut, despite all the conflict and the turmoil of the 90s, I feel that there's 2 aspects of it. One, there's a happy part that was kind of unaware of what the country really had just gone through. I was born in '87, so I don't remember the war. Like my first memories were really 91, 92. So it was past the war. So one way we never realized the gravity of what our parents went through, surviving 15 years of civil war. But the other aspect is I did grow up with the consequences of the war. It took a number of years before I went to the other side of Beirut, or the other
Mm.
regions, or to go to the
Yes.
south, and and I feel that this is a direct consequence of the overall trauma that resulted from crossing from one region to the other within Beirut. Because I feel that I did grow up in quite a sectarian and segregated Lebanon, but I realized that a bit too late. Sorry, it's like, this is my first time in Sur. That's weird, or like, this is my first time in whatever, So I feel that, yes, I never lived the war, but did live the consequences of the war. And I went to a school that was from one religion, really. And while I wasn't aware of the existence of other religions at a very young age, when I started to understand, oh, there's Christians and Druze and Muslims and things like that, it's like, why is my school only of predominantly one religion? That is weird.
That is weird.
Yeah. uh, so yeah, I feel. But again, when we think of the 90s, I look back with a lot of nostalgia and with a lot of joy, I would say, at what we lived, because I think it was a great period to grow up in Beirut, and we had a freedom of our parents would just let us go play, and we'd play on the street, and run around the neighborhood and play in the forest and play football in parking lots. And the level of freedom and kind of chaos and lawlessness that was present in Beirut in the 90s, or in Lebanon in the 90s, was kind of perfect for us as kids and as
Mhm.
teenagers, really. We don't we don't necessarily think this way anymore. Uh, Also, when I think now that we, as kids, we would go out, no phones, nothing, completely disconnected from our parents. They had no idea what we were doing, and and they could not get in touch with us. There
Right.
is some level of freedom that is that makes me quite nostalgic. Now, when it comes to the cinematic influences, um, really, when I was a child, I would go every Sunday. I would go to the movies to catch the new release of the week, because typically in the 90s they would release like one new film every week, maybe two, and it used to be the big Hollywood blockbuster that made it all the way to Lebanon in 1995, for example.
Mm-hmm.
But then when with the rise of DVDs and things like that, and especially pirated DVDs and copies and all of that, I used to go to Birch Hamoud, and for the equivalent of 1,000 Lebanese lira, so the equivalent of 66 cents approximately, you could just buy a DVD.
Oh yeah.
And in Birch Hamoud, believe it or not, the guy was quite a cinephile. So, and he had everything organized in quite a nice way. So he had like the American movies from the 70s, like all the counterculture with Martin Scorsese and with Kubrick. They were in one. You had like one stack of DVDs that was that. Then you had, for example, all the silent movie era. You had the Charlie Chaplin and the Buster Keaton and Laurel and Hardy, and all of this arranged in one stack of DVDs. You had all the Asian cinema, the Japanese cinema. So it was great. It was, out of curiosity, I started watching more American independent films. So, specifically Scorsese, things from the 70s, and a bit more, at the time, independent American movies like Quentin Tarantino and things like that. And then you start appreciating the directors as opposed to the actors, because when I was a child, I was just following actors. Like, I want to watch Al Pacino, I want to watch De Niro, I want to watch these phenomenal actors. But then it's like, why did I like this film of Al Pacino, but I didn't like that film of Al Pacino? Why do I feel he's not a very good actor in this this film, but he's tremendous in that? And then you start understanding that, okay, there's a director, there's a mastermind behind all of this. So at age 14, 15, I started discovering these American directors, and then I started reading about them and discovering who their influences were, and that opened Pandora's box, and I started discovering Jean-Luc Godard and François Truffaut and John Cassavetes and these types of directors, and I started discovering cinema, really. Oops.
Okay. So Ali has disconnected, but we will try to proceed.
Yep.
I wanted to actually ask a question about the movie The Swing.
Yes.
So that one was based on your family. Was it your grandparents, right?
Yes, correct.
And I mean, obviously working with elderly people is different than working with like the youth and like filming the youth. So my question would be is like, what lesson did you learn from working with the elderly?
Well, I was shooting a documentary, so they're not really acting or doing anything like that. I was really filming them as at a time in their life where they were going through this tragedy of having lost their daughter and having one of the parents know and the other not, because we were trying to protect my grandfather, who was very weak and who couldn't stand an emotional shock. So I was filming this couple where, after 65 years of marriage, one knows of the passing of their daughter, but the other does not, and how can the relationship survive that and overcome that, and all the sacrifices you do as a family to save one member. But really, while this is the thematic of the film, what really propelled me into telling the story is I really wanted to know what stays when you're close to the finish line. When you look back at your life, what are the lessons learned? What are the regrets? What are the, you know, we say that when an old man dies, it's an entire library that burns, something like that. I think it's an African
Wow.
saying.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was really an interest of getting a sneak peek into that immense library before it goes away, it fades away. So there's so much, so many lessons learned in terms of that. For example, I would say that really what remains is how you made other people feel, how people made you feel, and how you made other people feel. All the rest, like the success and the money and all of these materialistic stuff, I learned that by the end of it, they really have no meaning. And it's are you going away full of regrets and full of a spite for what you've done in your life, or are you going with a peace of mind? For example, my grandfather, I could feel so much peace of mind, and he was just ready to go, and he was like, I'm gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine, everyone's gonna be fine, and the world will continue, and our life maybe is just one step in our existence, and our existence goes way beyond just the time limit of our lives. I know I'm being extremely philosophical and existential in that, but I think this is really one of the lessons that I learned.
It's
While my grandmother was much more, delving into the past, and why have I done this, and why have I done that, and I shouldn't have done this, and I shouldn't have. And at some point, it's like, just let go. As you wake up in the morning and you're happy you're happy with the day that you're about to spend, and then you sleep well at night. I guess that's all that matters.
Wow.
a very beautiful lesson.
What a big tangent from your initial question.
Yeah. But,
Ali, welcome.
yeah, welcome back. Yeah, so a few points. I mean, like, so how did your family react to you becoming a filmmaker? I mean, you're an intelligent in math and science and engineering, and now you're telling them, hey, I want to be a filmmaker. And in Lebanon, if something is not an easy career path to make money, it's looked down upon, and they're like, why would you do this? You're so intelligent, right? You have all these STEM skills. Why would you not go into that? Why would you
What
put all
happened?
your time into filmmaking?
Well, the thing is, having a diploma and a safety net, I think, was a big factor in convincing them that, hey, I just want to try this because I'm going to die otherwise. And what really happened is I started working in film in parallel to consulting. So management consulting requires very, very long hours. So we used to work till very late at night, and then I would go back to my hotel room, and I would be editing the episodes of, at the time,
Wow.
the show was
Yeah.
called Beirut, I Love You, till like 2
Mhm.
a.m., 3 a.m. Then go to sleep, wake up quite early, and
Wow.
go back to work. And then in the weekends, instead of resting, we would be shooting the episodes.
Right.
So my 2 days of weekends was I shoot, and then the 5 days of the week I would edit at night. So I think they saw that, okay, the guy is really passionate about this, and we should just let him do his thing, and then eventually he's going to come back to his senses, maybe. But I'm also being a bit unfair in my description, because they were really supportive with my decision when they saw that I was really passionate with this, and yeah, then I Beirut, I Love You, which was extremely amateur and just like whatever, zero budget and really, really amateur, but it was a first film school for me. But that led to another project, and then I was able to just keep working in film.
I want to bring it back to unity and national unity. I remember you were telling us how Lebanon was so divided when you were younger, and it continues to be divided today. And in my opinion, I don't understand why we're so divided from each other, why we fight within each other. I understand the history of it, of course, but I mean, we're all Lebanese working together for a better future, and there's enough people trying to hurt us and take us down from outside. So why all the fighting? Why all the hatred? I think our generation of Lebanese wants to get rid of that and just look towards a future where I don't care where you're from, I don't care your ethnicity or your religious background. We're all people. I mean, look at us on this call. We're all different. We all come from different places, but we work together and we're happy to do it and we love doing it. And yeah, I just wanted to, like share that because we're so driven by hatred and anger, and it's because of a lot of the trauma that we grew up with. And I understand the history, of course. I'm not trying to deny any of that, but we need to flip over a new leaf and build our own future of Lebanon, one that is not divisive, one that's united. um,
That's that's very well said, and I remember reading something on social media on October 17, 2019. So the first day of the revolution. So very 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 shortly after, someone wrote, "The civil war might have just ended today," and I feel that in in 2019, I think we were in such euphoria because everything that you're saying uh, came to reality on that day. It's that day where we realized that, hey, listen, we're all getting screwed over the same way, and by the end of the day, our divisions are a real product of political decisions that ensure that whoever rules over a certain ethnicity or a certain sect or religion keeps their power through the fear of the other. And the other is coming to get you, the other is armed, and the other wants, and I'm here to protect you. And keep voting for me because I'm here to protect you. And I think that our generation might be, because our parents' generation, it's too hard for them to overcome 15 years of trauma, and everyone has had a family member that's been, I don't know, that's been a direct victim of the conflict. At least one family member that's been a direct victim of the conflict, whether it's from within or from outside, whether from Israel or from Palestine, from Syria, or within us. And then even within a specific a sect, there is the division that was a result between Christian infighting or Shia infighting. There's constantly divisions even within the sect, which proves to you that these are completely man-made sectarian divisions that are there to ensure that the people in power stay in power. And that's why in the elections of 2022, the parliamentary elections of 2022, or anytime there's a remotely chance of having a party or a list that transcends these divisions, these sectarian divisions, we see all the political parties reuniting despite their differences, their so-called differences. They unite against the movement of change, whether it's in 2016 with Beirut Madinati in the municipality elections, or in 2019 with whatever was coming out of the revolution, or in 2022 when we saw it quite clearly with all these different lists or these different parties that were uniting against the list of change. But even change is chaotic and disorganized because by the end of the day, it, rejecting the other doesn't necessarily create conformity
right.
and unity within us, because the rejection of the other goes, it constitutes of the far right all the way to the far left. So in the revolution you had the Communist Party, and you had like the elite that is just not part of the political system, or that is not part of the cake sharing scheme that the political parties have going on. But eventually, I want to think that we will transcend that, because when you're, like you're saying, when you're on the streets of Beirut, especially when it comes to our generation and the younger generation, we mix. We don't, there's no questions of, wait, are you this or are you that? It's not. I feel that these divisions are not as apparent as they seem to be when you're on the ground. Everyone goes everywhere. Everyone, it's not as bad as our politicians like to make us think. So I am more optimistic that in thinking that in the future they're losing more and more their grip, and they're losing the hold they have on the narrative that I'm here to protect you against everyone else that is coming to get you.
Said, any comment on this one?
I definitely agree that our people, like just our generation, has definitely changed their perspective. I always like to stay skeptical just for a bit, because
Of course.
because
Optimistic versus skeptic. You see how it goes.
Ask me tomorrow. I'll give you the answer that Saeed is about to give, and ask him. I don't know. A few weeks from now, he might tell you, no, actually things are going to be fine. That's it's the yin and yang that I try to portray in the film as well. These shifting viewpoints where we keep swinging between one and the other. But yeah, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt.
No, that's very true. Like, that's what I liked about the movie as well. Like, you would see different sides of the story all the time. For me, the reason why I'm not skeptical that there is no change, there is definitely change within the people, for sure. The only change that hasn't happened, which is the more important one, is in the political system, the one that's set up for the people to vote for, and actually have change in the government. Now we are seeing, yes, some change in the government, but that's mainly because of external forces being involved. So
correct.
Are we actually getting any change, or is it just like you were saying, polar extremes left and right? Are we just shifting from one extreme to another? And then that's something that I want to be. That's what I'm worried about.
But you're perfectly right that the political system is broken, of course, and the political system in place is not supposed to be in place. Well, it was not designed to be in place for this long.
Yes.
After the Taif agreement in '89, so what marks the end of the civil war, our political system was supposed to be to transcend the sectarian aspect, to have a government entity that would respect the sectarian division of the film, that would honor that in a way, where you make sure that each minority cannot get crushed by the simple number by the mere fact that they're a minority in numbers. Their rights will get protected in some sort of Congress, for lack of a better term, where these religions are always respected there. But then the parliament itself would transcend just the religions and the confession, the sectarian aspect of it.
Yes, and
exactly.
Remove the quota system that's implemented. I'm really happy that you bring this up, because I feel like not a lot of people are well informed about it, and they're not informed that the fact that the people who are in power at the moment are taking advantage of the Ta'if system by extending it consistently, and that's why there's still the same people in power.
Because you cannot ask the people in power to remove power from themselves. It's like it's the equivalent of being in US politics and saying, like, we do need to create a third party because more and more people in the US do not identify either with the Democrats or the Republicans. The Republicans have gone to just Trumpism in a way,
Yeah.
and a lot of people support that, and that's it's their choice, whatever, sure. But a lot of, I would say, ex-Democrat voters do not identify with the Democrats so much anymore and are seeking a replacement. But it seems that both parties agree not to have that third system,
Yeah.
and that's why I think that the election of Mamdani is a bit of a you know is a bit of a like a black swan
Mm-hmm.
in American politics. And again, I'm allowing myself to be very skeptical about this because this is the hardest job in the world. And historically, every person who has become the mayor of New York has been hated by the end of their term, and they leave office with a lot of shame because, of course, you're managing the craziest, most intense, eclectic city in the world, which is New York. But it seems to me, when you see the passion behind the Mamdani voters, you feel
Yeah.
that these are just the ex-Democrat voters or the younger Democrat voters who just don't want to support what Democrats stand for right now, who have been disillusioned with Biden and Kamala Harris, and to a certain extent Obama, with again
Yeah.
endless wars and endless support, sending money abroad when they're being told they cannot afford healthcare, and they're all in debt of 200 300K just because they go and get a degree from university. I don't need to reiterate all the problems that touch particularly the Democrat voters. But all I'm saying is that it's very hard for people in power to just let go of that power for the benefit of society.
Of course. And I have a two-part question to ask you. So you mentioned the black swan of Mamdani. Do you think that that's what Lebanon needs right now? And the second part of the question would be, would you be involved in the cultural propaganda machine that you that he would be that he would need to support his campaign, or just like supports his campaign?
Um, I like I'm a supporter of the forces of change, of course.
Yeah.
Any movement of change, because I don't relate so much to any of the parties in place.
Yeah.
And not relating is me being extremely polite
Neither do
and
I.
not saying that
Yes.
I despise them. I despise them, and I feel a lot of anger and hatred when I think of the ruling parties.
Yeah.
And in 2019, I was convinced that something good would come out of it, but then we see at the elections that, okay, no, it's just a rejection of it's an anti-establishment movement, much more than a movement that stands for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're still looking for that movement, and if it gets formed and I relate to it and I identify, I'd be more than happy to campaign. I don't shy away from activism or political activism. I just haven't found the person that is worthy
Yeah.
of all that activism beyond the the people on the ground protesting in 2019, 2020, etc. I did vote for the change movement, but even within themselves, we see that it's not really one consistent party, and they don't really have the same viewpoints, and sometimes they have very contradictory viewpoints, and it's very hard to support that as a party. Like, I support individuals individually, but I think that any political gain must pass by a strong entity that we call a political party. So I think what we really need is someone a bit like, again, I dislike the person himself, but I'm talking about the phenomenon. Some type of Macron, someone that comes that is neither from the left nor from the right, that is not associated to any of these parties, and that has such power that they can really uh, defeat both parties. Now, as it turns out, he had the backing of both, one way or another.
Yeah.
He found himself. He's just a political player, but the phenomenon of not having the la droite and la gauche voted in power in France has
Yeah.
was completely unusual back then, which is a bit what's happening with Mamdani right now, where he's not the typical Democrat voter. He's definitely not who the Democrats wanted, and they poured millions and millions against him, but still he won. So the will of the people prevailed. And while that's a very romantic idea, I hope that it gets applied to Lebanon, but on behind a strong party with ethics and principles that the three of us can relate to.
Totally.
Completely agree.
Lebanon needs to build a new future. It needs a new vision. It needs to be reimagined. One of the strengths of filmmakers is that you get to build your own universe. You get to create something from nothing. I mean, no one told you to make this film, any of your films. You just went out there and you created it. It's like a statue. You sculpted it yourself out of this rock, and you built this whole universe yourself. And we need more of that, building something, creating something, shaping our own future. And we need to do it actively. We need to envision it and design it ourselves. And when you're making a movie too, like, it's not just that you're making a movie with friends. Now you're having a huge crew that you're supporting. You're having all these restaurants and people you're going to go out to eat to. You're giving people, hope and inspiration, but also a career and some, like, when you're making a movie, you're building so much for so many different people. So I can't wait to see you keep on making films in all different capacities. And I love cinema, and I think the art and culture is what's going to drive the future of Lebanon, in my opinion. And starting with a film like yours, where you're out here really talking about these issues really directly. I mean, in all your documentaries, you're going into all these issues that we all have in common, despite us being so different in so many different ways. We all have so much in common that makes us Lebanese, right? We all speak the same language, and despite me being like an expat living out here in Los Angeles, I'm still Lebanese. And the only reason that I'm here and not in Lebanon right now is because they made it so hard for me to live in Lebanon and succeed and have a career that that I can reach my potential for. But if all that was in place in Lebanon, I'd much rather choose to live there. We all have this in common, and one thing we have in common too is Laziza right here. We all drink the same Laziza. To salute to that.
You get Laziza in LA. That's cool.
Yeah, humble brag.
No, but yeah. You're right. And I think that Lebanese cinema. So yeah, of course, we're designing a world and all of that, but it's teamwork. I'm nothing without my crew, without my cinematographer Joe Saade, without my production designer Hanadi Midlish, without my actors, without my sound designer Rana Aid, my sound mixer Bassam Labus. Anyway, I can go on and on and on. My music composer Anthony Sahyoun. But for me, it's very, very. It was essential that all the creative roles and all the leading roles, what we call the heads of department, it was extremely important that they're all Lebanese. I did not, even though we need to go and do these co-productions and hire foreigners on our films to fulfill the spending obligations from some of these grants. It was a principle that I had put from day one, that the heads of department and all the creative positions have to be Lebanese, because I think that cinema in Lebanon, or at least the films that I'm interested in making, have to be a real reflection of the culture and society in a way. Beyond the entertainment aspect, in Lebanon, the problem is that we don't really have history books. Saeed, might know that. Going to school, we learn about Lebanese history and the Ottomans and the heroes and the revolution and all of that. and then all of a sudden the history ends, and then we just move on to something else. And you're like, but wait, there's the more interesting aspects that I would like to learn. So everything that's 67 and above does not get taught in school. And I think this is part of the problem we have, is that we don't learn from our mistakes, because we don't learn from our history, because we don't know our history. So for me, getting to know this history in Lebanon was done through cinema, was done through films, through the films of Maroon Baghdadi in the 70s and the 80s, and his documentaries, and the films of Jocelyn Saad and Randa Shahad. All of these Lebanese filmmakers that were working, that had their active years during the Lebanese Civil War, were really filming the reality of Lebanon. And I was able to learn history, not just from the simple facts of this event happened and that event happened, but more of a visceral and emotional experience of being in the streets of Beirut in 1982 during the Israeli invasion, or being in the streets of the south, or being in Sur when this and that happened, when. So I feel that the historical aspect that Lebanese cinema takes makes it quintessential to our history, and preserving this culture and this history in a very emotional and visceral way. That's why I like to think that the films that I'm interested in making have to fulfill that legacy and continue that legacy that we've inherited from previous Lebanese filmmakers that were active in the years of the war.
Just to add to what you said, I learned so much from this film, West Beirut. Ziad Dwairi.
I was going to mention that film. Exactly. It's what's so great about Ziad Dwairi is that he grew up in in the 70s and the 80s, but he's telling his experience as a boy from West Beirut, and that is something that I was not necessarily taught, and I was not able to experience. And this film, when I saw it as a teenager, because I saw it in the movies, I felt like, whoa, this is me, but on the other side, And by the end of the day, it's kind of the same, Well, I mean, not me, properly in terms of like I experienced the war that way, but in what he's interested in, what like the choice of words. Exactly. And Ziad Wairi, what he did to Lebanese cinema in the 90s is he really reignited or rejuvenated Lebanese cinema in the 90s, and he took this film to the Cannes Film Festival, if I'm not mistaken, and brought some eyes back into Lebanese cinema, and then of course other filmmakers were able to do that work as well. I'm thinking of Joanna Hajitouma and Khalil Jrej, with Abud Productions also being formed in the early 2000s, with Nadine Labaki doing Caramel in 2006. But I think it can be kind of traced back to Ziad Dwairi, who did the first post-war mainstream film that was really shown in all of Lebanon, but also abroad.
Amazing. I mean, I think Lebanon definitely has a bright future going forward, especially when it comes to Lebanon, to the cinema, the field of cinema, because I feel there's been a lot of more focus on improving it and developing it and evolving it, especially now that there are topics that we are willing to talk about, and
Correct.
even filming more about sharing information about the Civil War. It's not as maybe controversial or taboo as it used to be. It's more open, and we're willing to talk about the different sides. I think for me, my final question would be, Cyril, is what advice would you give to future Lebanese filmmakers or the people of Lebanon, moving forward? What is one thing that you really hope that they would be doing or seeking, especially in the field of cinema, going forward?
I think it's a mixture of staying truthful to the stories that you can tell best.
Mhm.
The the stories that are really burning from within, and that no one else can tell but you, because of your particular vision on them, or your input to them, or your personal experience in telling them. And I would say not to wait for, I need this budget, and I need this and that to happen so that I can actually make my film. My first documentary, The Swing, I shot like really, it was zero. It was me and a camcorder, and no crew, nothing like that. The Dancing on the Edge of a Volcano had a bit of a bigger crew, but still it was very like very small in terms of budget and logistical planning. And the first series I made was also completely, it was really like zero budget, and just like a small camcorder and me and Munya filming. And I feel that when you look at some of the greatest directors, they also started with nothing. John Cassavetes in the US, or Jim Jarmusch were filming with minuscule budget, like negligible budget, close to nothing. So I think that people ultimately watch a film for the emotion of it, and not necessarily for the technique and the beautiful images and all of that. That's of course an aspect of it, but that is not the main reason why people go to the movies. They go because they're interested in experiencing something, feeling emotions, and
Mhm.
getting your point of view on a specific question that you really want to explore. And it's a question that doesn't necessarily have yes or no answer.
So
Um,
share the truth and keep the stories true. Yeah.
Exactly. And there's so many stories in Lebanon, because
yes.
we say that the best art comes from the greatest pain.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
there's so much pain and so much trauma mixed with love and attachment and patriotism towards the country, that this mishmash of emotion, I think, is what makes our stories quite attractive and quite universal.
Hmm.
You know, the Renaissance came after the Dark Ages, so from every pain there comes some beauty and light.
True.
I want to ask you about your relationship with Munia. I mean, you guys have been working
Yeah.
together for decades now.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Decade.
I
We're
mean,
not that old.
you, you guys
He's aging too
started
fast.
working on
Despite the hair.
I Love You Beirut. That's from 17 years ago or so. So
Yeah.
you guys have been working together for a
2009. Yes,
long
correct.
time.
Yes, correct. Yeah,
So
yeah.
tell us a bit more.
Yeah, well, at the time, just like I told you, I was working in consulting, and kind of frustrated not to be working in film. It was the same for her. She was an architecture student and really wanted to pursue a career in filmmaking. So we're like, hey, you want to make film? I want to make films. Let's make films together. And we're
Wow.
not going to bother anyone. It's just going to be you and I, and we're going to act in them and write them and edit them and do everything on our own, because we are the cheapest assets that we can get, who are willing to work 24/7 for nothing. So that's how it really started. And then of course we went our separate ways when it came to directing. So she started directing her own stories, and I directed my own. But we've always kept um, in each other's circles. So I produced her short. She acted in my film. I also shot her during Costa Brava. She helped me edit The Swing. So
Wow.
we're constant. I edited her film. So we're constantly collaborating in different ways. And yeah, because she's kind of a creative soulmate, and everything I do, she's the first one to read it, or to have a first look on it, because I respect her perspective a lot. And I think that she knows exactly what I'm trying to do in my stories, and I like to think the same when it comes to her.
What a blessing. Like it's
I
kind of
agree.
like you guys are kind of inseparable. in some kind of way, like those twin stars.
Yeah, I don't take that for granted at all, because I know that it makes it so much easier to have a shoulder to lean on in this industry.
Yeah, it's tough to find those kind of connections. That's why I'm glad
Yeah,
to have Abi
it's
alongside me for the
it's
podcasting.
like you both.
I'm glad to have
Exactly.
you, Said.
Javi.
But we're just starting out. We haven't been 2 decades just yet, Said. Oh my goodness.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
But yeah.
Let's see how bitter you're gonna be talking to each other in like 12 years.
It's amazing because both you guys started out with nothing, right? Like just a dream of making movies, and you guys had nothing, no budget, just literally filming on the streets of Beirut, trying to make amateur films that developed, and step by step you guys built your bricks, and she made Costa Brava, fantastic, another great masterpiece of filmmaking from Lebanon, and you worked on that too, and yeah, and your documentary also tied to that too. So
Of course.
tell us a bit
It's
more.
all very convoluted and
Yes.
mixed timelines and things like that. No, but the documentary particularly because it was post August 4th, and initially I felt that it's such a peculiar moment in Lebanese history, and I was convinced, or I was I'm like, I like to think that this is the lowest point that we will ever reach of seeing half of Beirut completely disfigured
Oh my
and
God.
destroyed, and having this national and collective trauma. Little did I know, but anyway, at the time I was like, this is the lowest point, and I need to capture this the essence and the emotion that is very present in the streets of Beirut. So I started to film that, but that's not really a story. Like there's only so much you can film of destroyed buildings and talking to people, and how do you feel, and how are we going to get back on our feet after that, and we're so traumatized and all of that. So it needed a very specific story, and and uh, and, I was questioning what was my role in this dystopia as a filmmaker, beyond just filming and documenting. And then I realized that Munya and her crew were going through the exact same questioning, like, do we continue with this film?
Mm-hmm.
What is the role of this film in this chaotic, apocalyptic universe, or context and country? What is the meaning of it all? What is the meaning of art? Can art heal, etc.? They were going through these intense existential questions that I was asking myself. So I pointed my camera towards them, because I knew that that's a narrative. Here's a story that has a beginning, middle, and an end. And here's a question: are they going to make their film or not? What kind of obstacles are they going to have to overcome? Are they going to overcome them? And I knew that the kinds of obstacles they would have to overcome would be representative of what every Beirut resident or Lebanese citizen has to overcome to build anything, or to keep on hoping and keep on dreaming, whether it's the electricity, the financial collapse, the trauma of just every sound takes you back to the explosion. So I thought that this very specific story can actually be a microcosm of the history of Lebanon in that particular period of time, trying to get back on its feet. And that's how the documentary came about.
Yeah, what an incredible documentary too. Like you really feel all the struggle, and you're like, are they gonna make this movie? I mean, I saw the movie beforehand, so I know it ended up also being so good and fantastic. Like it's so insane how, despite all the things that went wrong with that movie, that they ended up making it, and you can't tell. When you watch that movie, you're like, wow,
But isn't that the perfect metaphor for Lebanon? Like some seriously, I had friends come to Lebanon for the first time a few months ago, and they were like, "This place is great. Everything is great. Like the weather is great, the people are great, the food is great, the party scene is great. People are so warm and hospitable, and this is like a hidden gem." And I'm like, "Oh my god."
Tell them to live
Oh
there
my
for
God.
more than a month,
Yeah.
and then the plaster, the band-aid gets ripped off.
Exactly. So yeah, it seems that I feel it's kind of the perfect metaphor of, by the end of the day, things look shiny and nice, but the amount of pain that is going backstage and behind the scenes, and like everything going from the very specific things of, oh, I don't have electricity tonight, to all the way to Israel is bombarding everyone, and so it's, yeah.
Did you know when you were filming that it was going to be a documentary, or was it more like behind the scenes footage that evolved into something more?
Uh, well, I was filming Beirut in the beginning, and I was filming a bunch of disciplines. So I was filming music. Yeah, I was filming musicians. I was filming an activist. I was filming like a sculptor. I was filming all kinds of disciplines. But the problem is, because I was so close with filmmakers, and because they're my friends, and I have years of um, friendship and uh, working with them. I had first hands with no filters to their emotions and their fears and their doubts and everything else, which was not the same relationship I had with the other artists,
Mm-hmm.
because I was really trying to explore how art helps you get back on your feet. But with them, I could film them in their weak moments, and when they're questioning everything, and they're the art form and the project altogether. So that's why what you see in the end is just the filmmakers, because through them I could tell the story best, and I decided not to include any of the other artists.
So documentary comes from those relationships. Is that your advice? Build relationships with the people you're documenting before filming them.
Um, uh, it's the case in my two documentaries, but I wouldn't say that it's the only way. But I think you do have to earn the trust of the subjects, a blind trust. They have to trust that you're there to tell their story as truthfully as you can, and you're not here with a hidden agenda of shaming them or showing them as weak people. No, you're here to show the three-dimensional aspect of any human being who's going to go through moments of doubt and moments of joy and happiness and fear, and the whole spectrum of emotion. And I think that if you're really truthful, you would show the whole spectrum, and you wouldn't feel one particular agenda of, look how heroic these people are, and they're constantly fighting and persevering, and everything is good and rosy, and what an inspiring story, because that is not true. And at the same time, you don't want to show like broken people uh, and misery, 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 misery all the time, because I don't think that people go to the movies to experience just this amount of misery, and I feel that it has to always be countered with moments of humor and comedy, especially in Lebanon, because we do
Mhm.
use comedy as a defense mechanism and a tool of survival. And you see that even in the darkest periods, there's constantly the people want to laugh and want to not belittle our pain, but play with it,
Yeah,
and have a more sarcastic look onto it, just to be able to survive it, I
they
feel.
kind of downplay it, even, I guess.
Also,
I
also,
think it's
yeah,
because
yeah,
they
yeah,
have.
because you have no choice, otherwise you would just stay in bed all day long.
Yeah,
Like you would not do anything, you would not do any project. You have to have a level of delusion that is mixed with, no, okay, we're going to make this and it's going to be fine.
I did have a question talking about the documentaries. I did have a question actually about the swing when so this because it was with your family. How did you position yourself in a way that because obviously when you were filming during moments of like there was
Grief, yeah.
family celebrations and there was
Mhm.
like moments where you want to be present. So how did you like position yourself there when you want to be present because this is maybe like it's with your grandfather, his final days, or however it was, and at the same time you also wanted to film the documentary. Like, how did you separate those two?
Uh, they're not so separate. The way I pitched the idea to my grandparents in the beginning, I'm like, hey, I'm really interested in coming and spending time with you, and when I say spending time, is I'm going to come in the morning and I'm going to leave after you sleep, and I might come, even earlier before you even wake up, and I'm going to be present, and there's going to be a camera, and you're going to have microphones, and I'm not going to tell you what to do. I might be there, ask you some questions and and things like that, but really I want to you're going to live your life as if I'm not present. And for them, I feel that the whole thing they picked up from this whole spiel was, we're going to spend time together. They're like, oh yeah, you come every day. We would love that.
Yeah,
So for them, it was extremely endearing, because my grandmother, for example, would, at the end of the day, I would pack the camera, for example. She's like, don't pack anything, keep the lights, keep the camera, keep the microphone. I said, but no, they're going to be in the way. She told me no, because then I will know that you will come back tomorrow.
Aw.
So it's like,
oh, that's beautiful.
it's like, yeah, I know, it's like, kill me now. Oh my god. But but yeah, for them, it was very much of, we're going to spend time with our grandchild, who's going to listen
Yeah.
to our stories, and we're going to dig into the past, and we have someone to listen. So my grandparents, my grandmother particularly, she has someone she could share the grief with. She could share the
Yeah.
pain, because all day long she's sitting with her husband, and she has to put a smile on her face and pretend that everything is fine. And if he asks about his daughter, she needs to say, oh, she's just traveling and she's gonna be back soon. Why isn't she calling me? She must be busy. Don't worry. All of that, while from inside she's really dying and suffering. So my presence and the presence of the camera allowed her to just get all of these emotions out, and have someone to be there for her and be present for her, and that can acknowledge her emotions, and again listen to her. So she found the process very cathartic. On his side, it was a completely different experience. It was, oh, he's asking me about my entire past, and I can actually talk about all these Italian women that I was chasing in my youth, and I can talk about all of these stories that my wife won't, my wife won't listen to me, and she couldn't care less about these stories, and like, they're so beyond that phase of the relationship. So for them, he was quite appreciative with the fact that I was there, genuinely interested in hearing his entire life story and all of ev- everything he wanted to share. So it was months and months of just him sharing and being present, because he's bedridden, and it's
Yeah.
him and his wife and the TV and the occasional visit from his family. Even if it's daily, by the end of the day, it ends up being like half an hour, 1 hour, but there's 15 other hours in the day where he's alone. So
Wow.
so yeah,
Therapeutic.
it's hard to do the split between the me as a grandchild and the documentarian, but I guess this is the beauty of the process of having done that documentary.
Yeah, it was great, to be honest. What, like, being able to see that separation.
It shows
How
you
did-
how Lebanon is so rich, and there's such a rich history behind it too. And like the story of your family is so interesting and unique, but there's so many other families that have such rich stories as well. And if you go even further back, Lebanon has an incredibly deep, ancient, historic, um, universe that so many things happen in Lebanese ground. So many people came to visit. So many stories are just buried beneath the ground, and we need some people to come in, like excavators, and come in and actually make movies about Lebanon and Lebanese history, and there's such a gold mine there that's been untapped, untouched potential, and that's just the history, that's biblical history, all the way to today,
Yeah.
modern Lebanon, and all of it. It's so interesting and so unique, and yeah, I'm so excited to see what movies you come up with next, and what movies come out of Lebanon too as well. Let's talk
There's a
about.
few. There's a few coming up. There's a bunch of people who are shooting or who have completed production recently. So there should be a nice wave of Lebanese films that are going to get released in the upcoming years, which is
Wow,
great. Yeah, yeah, it's great.
can't wait for that. And let's finally talk about a sad and beautiful world.
Yes.
Side trick me. Yes, and I want to talk about the stars part, the Najum part. I mean,
Hmm.
let's talk about like Lebanese space program, and
Yeah.
and the trains, and like Lebanon used to be so much better back in the day. What happened?
So yeah. Let's start with the space thing. So it's such an absurd and grandiose and tragic story that I'm like, this fits perfectly into the tone of the film,
Hmm.
of something being equally impressive and beautiful, but at the same time so sad. So what was happening is that in the 60s or in the 70s, in the 60s and the 70s, you had this university professor at Haigazion University, which is in Hamra, more or less,
Hmm.
the entrance of Hamra, who was he formed like a science club with a bunch of students, and their goal was to create rockets and send them to space. You had a space race. You had the Americans, you had the Russians, but then you had also
Ah.
the Lebanese, and they're like, hey, we're gonna get there. So he did that, and again, no budget, no like nothing. It was just, they were just a bunch of passionate and smart and capable people, um, who, who were building these rockets, and then these rockets started being more and more successful and having a wider and wider reach. That at some point, all the surrounding countries, going from Cyprus to the Palestine, Israel, Syria, they were all like, hey, what's going on here? Like, what technology are you developing? And no, we're not going to have any of it, because these rockets can actually reach all of these countries. So put a bunch of explosives, and that's it. We can start bombing people. So they were like, hey, no, we're this is purely scientific. Very, we're pacifists. We're we're really just trying to go into space and develop this space program. It would be an honor and all of that. Even we had a stamp with the space rocket and the cedar, because they used to put the cedar on their rocket. Anyway, due to political pressure and the start of the war and all of that, they shut down the program, and they're like, you guys are not going to do any of that. We're not going to have any any of that. So they dissolved this science club, and some of these students and some of these people ended up working for international space programs, going all the way to the NASA. And I think the story for me summarizes very much the perseverance and the almost like the genius of Lebanon, and the capabilities that you can find, that can really flourish with no means, no financial means, no support, but then eventually get caught up with the regional tension and the fact that we happen to be in this region of the world, and where external forces are gonna cut your wings, and you can only shine if you go abroad, which is, I think, a bit your story right now,
Hmm.
Ali, because you were talking about being forced to be in LA, because Lebanon cannot always fulfill the ambitions of all of its residents. So, including that story for me was quite interesting and quite important for the film. Having this character who has his head in the stars, and who was caught up by reality, but is still not acknowledging the fact that his his noble ambitions have been put to rest, and he has to deal with his wife, who's like, oh my god, and this freaking husband that I have, and decides to really put an end to it. And inadvertently, he sets the whole story in motion. And of course, there's the metaphor of Nino and Yasmina being these stars that are meant to be, and their destiny is completely written in the stars. Since the film deals also with the concept of destiny and fate, and if you're defined by that, or it's just like a series of chaotic coincidences that make our lives. Because oftentimes a big event happens in your life and you're like, wow, if I were 1 second too early, 1 second too late, that wouldn't have happened.
Right.
I wouldn't have met this person, or that, this event wouldn't have happened, and my life wouldn't be the same. So it's kind of interesting to reflect on these moments and think if they're really the product of some divine fate that is romantically written in the stars, or if it's just chaos and randomness and improbable events that just have a low chance of probability but end up happening, which summarizes our whole existence in this universe. It might be divine intervention, and it could be just such an improbable event in 10 to the power 23 galaxies, and it's so unlikely, but then a miracle happened, and that very improbable event makes that our planet is inhabited.
Wow. Saeed, did you know about all this history of the space program, Lebanon? This is news to me.
Yes, my dad used to really like telling me about the history of Lebanon and all these stories. That's why when you mentioned about the archive of a man, like I directly thought of my father, and it's like, making the connection there. It's like it feels like men have a wealth of knowledge that they don't necessarily share unless someone directly asks them questions, and it's
especially Lebanese men, yeah.
Oh yeah. It's like, where did this story come from? It's like whenever, every time I have a conversation with my dad, it's just like he brings up a random story from his childhood. What?
Yeah,
like,
it's like,
where
this
did
is
that come
amazing.
from? And then
so true.
I took it on myself to just start asking questions, and then I extended it to like started asking my both parents of the questions, and then I started going to the grandparents, the ones that are alive, and it's especially also when you ask them questions about you as well, it gives you like different perspective. Like, how people have a certain perspective of themselves, they only see themselves in one way, because like this is what like if you look in a mirror, you see yourselves like, this is the image I have of myself. But then when you take other people's images of you, it kind of like expands. It's like you're no longer just tunneling on this specific thing of you. You're looking at the wide angle view of yourself, and you're just like, wow, I'm actually multiple things more than what I think of myself. So it's, I think asking questions from your family and then asking people questions in general just to get perspective, it's very helpful for you to, it's just like to learn more and expand the way you look at things, because you don't want to limit yourself, you don't want to be put in a box,
because it's your identity also. I feel that this quest, when you ask questions about your parents' past and things like that, somehow it's you trying to define or shape your identity. It's what you're coming from, what kind of traumas they have.
Yeah.
And it's more and more acknowledged now that traumas can get inherited.
Very true.
If you look at the work of Gabor Mate and these types of people, they stress that a lot, of how not necessarily having lived anything traumatic, you can still have a trauma that's been passed down from your parents' generation or your grandparents' generation. So I feel that you asking questions and having these different perspectives is really a quest for identity, for you trying to define what your identity is.
That's actually a good point. I didn't think of it that way. That's the first time someone has highlighted as like my search for my identity.
I think so. I might be, I might be looking too much into it, or assigning
I don't think
intentions that are not necessarily.
when when someone says like I'm overthinking it or I'm looking too into it, I don't agree with that. I think it's just a person sharing their thoughts, which is fine, and it's good to share your thoughts on something, because like I was saying about the different perspective, you're sharing your perspective of what I'm telling you, and you know
Yeah.
it's on me to basically relate to what you're providing me, and then I'll be like, okay, that sounds like something I relate to. You could give me like five different options, and it goes back to the person himself to be, he's decisive enough to actually be like, yeah, that sounds right, I'll stick to that. that
Yeah.
then that's all you need. You could give me like five different things, but to be honest, I think the first thing you said was the closest, which is discovering your identity. And I think that's gonna be my theme now. my
The-
the the next 10 podcasts are going to be with like therapists and psychologists. Let's talk
it's
about
funny because it's
identity.
true. We do have some lined up about this topic, but yes, the truth is, us as Lebanese, we're lied to a lot when we're younger. We're taught to be things other than ourselves. We're taught that you need to be this or this or this, and if you're not a respectable person, or you need to hide who you are or mask your emotions, or um, lie to yourself basically about how you're feeling and who you are and what your interests are in order to fit into this mold of society. And we have to spend our whole lives unlearning that. And that's the search, the quest for discovering our own individuality, who we are, our own authenticity. And it takes years of work unlearning all the scripts that are being fed to us by our family. And from them, they come from it from a scared, protective kind of way. They're afraid of you
Yes.
having your own thoughts and own beliefs and thinking differently because they're afraid of the unknown. But when the biggest journey of your life is searching for yourself and discovering yourself, because as Jesus said, the truth will set you free. And once you discover who you are at your core, you're going to live your happiest, freest life. Just to add
That's
to
true.
what everyone was saying.
Yeah. Especially, I think this is very applicable to men also, because when when you're a child, you're being told that certain emotions are not manly enough.
Mm-hmm.
Are you a weak boy? Strong boys
Mm-hmm.
don't cry. Why are you crying? Why are you
Mm-hmm.
doing this? And I think it teaches you. I don't know about other cultures, but at least in Lebanon, there is this. You're being taught that you're not supposed to acknowledge all of your emotions the way you are experiencing them. I think right now with parenting, we're going the complete opposite, where it's like, oh, please have your emotions and experience everything, and let's work through this together, and tell me how you're feeling. And it's a bit like, okay, sometimes it's okay to have a bit of authority of like, no, you cannot do this because this is bad for one, two, three, four reasons, but at least for us kids for me, as a child growing up in the 90s, there was this thing of you're not supposed to feel this or that, you're not supposed to cry, you're not supposed to play with this and that, so it's true that eventually you have to unlearn some of these things.
And discover yourself and build your own. And I'm sure, tell us about writing the script. When was the first time you wrote the first draft of your movie?
So I started writing in 2019 actually.
Wow.
And back then Lebanon was a very different place.
Yeah.
And then I went through a few drafts and a few iterations, and my producer at some point made me realize that the overall feeling of the drafts were very much a reflection of what was happening nationally. So when like in 2020, 2021, my drafts were very depressing. They were big downers. but But then, going through iterations and drafts, I was able to really go from to find the right balance between how much of the couple, uh, like how much the couple takes the front stage, and how to feed in the country and Lebanon all around it without being too didactic, or without being overly political, or having a strong message that I'm trying to convey. So finding that balance took some time. Plus, financing the film, gathering all the funds, because you have to pitch and apply for funds, and then some you get, some you don't, and then you try again, etc. So this takes a number of years, and I was just rewriting as as I was doing it. But halfway through the development process, I realized that really the central question that I was dealing with in this film, or what was really getting me excited and um, getting me to shape the whole structure of the film, was around the question of making a family and bringing children and raising
Mm-hmm.
them in this world, and particularly in Lebanon, in a region that's very often surrounded with crisis and conflict and wars. And when you look back at all the generations that have inhabited Lebanon since the early 1900s, every generation has had a major war or a major crisis that they had to overcome. So you start thinking, like, if I bring children into this world and I raise them in Lebanon, into this cruel and unjust world, and I raise them in Lebanon, are they really going to have a better future than what I had, or what my parents had, or what my grandparents had? Why would they be the exception? Uh, and 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 when I realized that this was really the question that I was debating uh, within myself, I I really, it gave me a framework to structure the whole relationship around that question, and talk about immigration and exile and love and all of these different themes through this one central question that doesn't really have an answer.
Wow. Well, it seems a bit like you did have the answer, right? You ended up having your own child during the time of making this movie, so it seems like
True.
you picked the side you wanted to choose, right? You found the answer.
Yeah, kind of. Well, he was born, actually. He was born. So we scheduled the whole production so that we shoot the film and then it's done, and then I have 4 weeks where I can recover from it and give myself some time, and then he would be born. But he was born prematurely on the last day of the shoot,
Wow.
as I was filming the last shot. Like, he was born as I was filming the last shot, which was a shot of the stars. We were filming the stars, and then he was born. So I mean, you can imagine everything that was happening in my head in that moment of giving birth to the film, after a number of years, while my wife was giving birth to our firstborn child, our
People
first
after you.
child.
That's pretty
Magical.
overwhelming there.
It was very, yeah, it was very overwhelming for her, for me, and for her being alone there, and for my whole crew, because some of them knew, and I told her, if I collapse at any point, my cinematographer Joe and my actress Munya can take over, and please, they can take decisions if I'm being taken on stretcher to a hospital because I've passed out or anything like that. Thankfully, this didn't happen, because he chose the timing correctly. He chose the last shot, so that was fine. But yeah, I think this anecdote in a way answers the question, but also brings all the poetry and the fate and the stars that the film tries to talk about as
Wow.
well. It kind of transcended into my real life.
How magical.
It
Said,
is,
I want to
yes.
ask you a question about what for you was the most emotional part of the story, the film, when you were watching it.
It's a good question. There was quite a few moments, but I think the there was the moment where when that when Munaya's character decides to like not leave Lebanon to Germany, and she stays. There was
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
one, and definite. There was also the scene where when they were still kids, and he
Yeah.
was on the train, and then she left, and he didn't know that she
Yeah.
left. Like that one was also like very strong one.
The misconnection, yeah, which they try to
Yeah,
make up for the rest of the film.
legit. I mean, sometimes these things do happen in life where it's just like there's a miscommunication, and then someone ends up sitting on a train by himself in the middle of the night. But I think the major one was probably when he lost his grandfather, and then it's just like, khalas, it's like that's where you see just the scenes just becoming really dark, and it's like ending in a very dark way, and it's like it's pretty an intense moment. Just it sets it sets the picture for how the movie ends, and he has to leave everything behind, and it's like that was his last connection basically when he lost his grandfather to the restaurant, to Lebanon. I think you see it in him as well, that he loses hope in staying there, and he was more khalas, I'm willing to leave after that. So I think that one was probably the strongest. What about you, Ali? Let's put the
Thanks
question
for
back to
sharing, Said. Oh, well, for me, I love the range of emotions that you could say that I got in this film. Like, I love laughing at all the silly moments, and Amr Lay's a too fantastic comedian, and
I agree.
yes, and all the romantic moments. It made me like feel that loving spirit, and the rage for me too. That one scene where um, Nino gets really mad about the traffic and about the convoy that's going
The
through, and
ambulance,
he's
yeah.
yes, and the ambulance scene, and yeah, that rage. I felt that rage so much in my bones, to be honest with you. So
yeah.
I could totally relate to all those emotions, and it really was an emotional roller coaster. Yes, and I love how he included so much comedy in it too. It's really fun to see lighthearted moments. Those are some of my favorites.
Yeah. We have to. No, that ambulance scene. So of course, really happened. There's a few videos where you see an ambulance
Yeah.
stuck in traffic because they blocked the street because some politician or whatever is going to pass by. And I remember there was one that really went viral. I think it was in 2020 or 2021. So at the
Mm.
at the peak of the the dark period that Lebanon was going through, and it really enraged me. It's like you see an
Mm-hmm.
ambulance that has the sirens, you know that someone is dying inside, and still they don't. And I remember, because when you shoot in Lebanon, you have to apply for a permit at the Amn al-Am, the general security, and they tend to read the script and give you the permit according to that. They're usually quite loose, unless there's something that's explicitly um, insulting to a religion or
Mm-hmm.
to a political party, or something that is against the norms. Against the norms is a very fluid interpretation of what can be against the norms,
Yes.
but that I'm hinting mostly to sexuality, homosexuality, these kinds of topics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, usually they're fine, but this one scene they had a bit of a problem with, and they're like, this scene is not very realistic. And I'm like, exactly. I'm like, excuse me. They're like, okay, first of all, us, like the police, basically, the general security police, we don't close streets. Okay, I'm like, okay, okay, you don't, sure, okay. And he's like, plus, we've never blocked a street on an ambulance. I said, but there are videos. And there's, they went viral and they went on the news and all of that. It's like, yeah, but it's not us. It's not our department. I said, then who is it? He's like, I don't know. It might be some, intelligence or secret service or whatever. I'm the dawle. They're really professionals at diluting the responsibility because they have so many different departments, and they said it's probably one of the other departments, but it's not us, and we don't hit people. Okay, because here we can see that they take him and they hit him. And I'm like, okay, so what exactly is the ask? They said, you can go ahead and shoot it, but we're not going to provide you with the uniforms because this is not what we do. And yeah, that's why I had two choices, because my people from the production team told me, if you want uniforms, we can get uniforms. There are ways. I'm like, okay. They told me, it becomes a matter of, do you want to go against the rule and shoot the scene, or do you want to and potentially risk the Lebanese release of the film, because they might actually tell you cannot release the film as long as the scene isn't there, or you just confuse and you muddy the water and you don't put uniforms, but people will understand.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? That's the wiser choice. And by the end of the day, I'm not, I don't want to attack a specific department. For me, I'm attacking the whole system altogether. It's it's not this particular department of انه امن الدولة او امن العام او انه حرس المجلس, okay, whatever, it's not it's
People
not about
get
that.
the
And
image. They don't need like the specifics. خلاص, you presented the general image. Hey, this way, like no one like starts hating on the project for no reason.
Exactly.
Or at the same time, no one really benefits if we go
Exactly.
into the specifics like that. It just ملعزة. مع إنه there are issues that have occurred, but
of course,
for you going forward as a Lebanese filmmaker, if you ever want to film again in Lebanon, you don't want to have that weight or like obstacle facing you if you ever want to make another movie in Lebanon. So it's not a risk.
There's I mean, there's that too, because by the end of the day I can see that the scene works regardless, and people are feeling what they're supposed to feel from the scene. And unless the film is specifically written, it's directly attacking a specific department of the state, then yes, okay, it might be worth putting that fight if that's the whole message of the film and the whole story and the whole thematic. But it was just a detail, and I'm like, I'm going for the emotion, and I'd rather muddy the water as to who's responsible for that, and just leave it up to that.
By the way, speaking about like Darak, filming the Darak, about what they've done, what they haven't done, I don't know if you've watched Marhaba Dawle, but
of course, the TV show.
So how do you think they got away with like that representation of the of the general security? Because like they also talk about religion at some points as well.
Correct. So I wouldn't know exactly, but I think that they probably have some connections that secures them a bit from being chased for it.
Would you think this is like also maybe Lebanese word?
But again, I don't know exactly, because I don't know the producers very well, but probably to portray them in that way, and I'm trying to be careful with my choice of words, but I think for them to accept to be portrayed in that way, there's probably someone higher up that
really
agreed. That's really backing it. Yes. And that's fine.
I don't know. I was curious is if there was like a shift in the narrative, but to be honest, it's like in the same timeline that you made the movie, so it's I don't know.
It is. No, the rules overall is like they if you insult someone specifically, like if you make a film that says screw this party or screw that party, or you want to insult a religion specifically, then they have a major problem. All the rest, there's always ways here and there. There's
gray areas.
There's gray areas. Now, if you make like a completely gay film, also like you're not going to get away with it, unfortunately. but there are films that suggest and that make more subtle connections.
Yeah, Caramel too. Speaking of it.
Exactly. So there are creative ways to always bypass these restrictions if needed. And if you look at the cinema from that region, even though it's not Arab, but Iranian cinema is expert at doing that, at criticizing the state in extremely well. I can see that.
It can happen. Yeah, I know, right? File from Iran.
But yeah. Even before a separation, when you look at the films of Kiarostami from the 80s and the 90s, he used to, in his early films, he used to cast kids. So the censorship bureau would get his films, and they're like, this is it's a film with kids, it's a film for kids. So they just wouldn't really get it, and then all of a sudden the film goes to Cannes and wins like major awards and travels internationally, and everyone sees how profound these films are and how relevant they are in their social critique of the Iranian regime and the whole system they have in place. But he used to mask that by being extremely subtle and just casting children and making kids stories. For example, his first film is a child who goes to school and mistakenly packs the homework of his classmate, the notebook of his classmate, and there's a homework they have to turn in on the next day or so, something like that, and they're supposed to do it at home, and if you don't do it, you fail. And it's really a pure mistake that he took the wrong notebook, our protagonist. So he goes home and realizes the mistake and decides to go return the notebook to his classmate. And this is the plot of the story. He just goes through town to get to his friend's place. And through that little walk in town, he goes through all kinds of encounters, and every encounter is with a specific type or a representative of the Iranian society. So from kids to elderly, people in power, poor people, rich people, everything. And it's so simple, but it's so profound and it's so emotional and so beautiful. And that shows you how how much censorship sometimes makes the creative brain flourish, because you see 45 years of censorship in Iran made them think of cinema differently. Now, if you look at the latest film coming out of Iran, which is Jafar Panahi's it was just an accident. It's extremely blunt and extremely aggressive and very direct. But yeah, this guy, because he's been jailed and he's been on house arrest, and supposedly he's been tortured by the regime and all of that, and now he's gotten out and he's unleashing all of his rage. But typically the typical Iranian film is very suggestive in its social critique and in approaching topics like sexuality that they can't really do.
There's a lot to learn from them.
For sure.
Yes.
For sure. It's one of the best cinemas in the world, the Iranian cinema.
And talking about censorship, I'm so glad that Lebanon has one of the few scenes where we're able to talk more and be more free, and especially in comedy and stand-up comedy, that's a big thing that's growing. And I want to talk to you a bit
Absolutely.
about the casting of your film. I mean, how did you pick the roles for who's going to be what, and how did you land on Omar Leza? Can we start with that one?
I did. So I'm a big fan of Awkward.
Yes.
The Awkward being the institution that is promoting all these stand-up comedians, and they have a venue, and they're doing that very successfully, and they're getting more and more Arab stand-up comedians, not just Lebanese. So they're transcending a bit the border. So yes, being a big fan of Awkward, I know a lot of their comedians, and I knew that for the comedic scenes and the secondary characters, I needed naturally gifted people when it comes to comedy. So I did see a bunch of them, and Omar Leza, I fell in love with, And I really caught him at a time where he's like, I really want to act in a film, whatever you want, I'll change my schedule for it, and all of that. He was really passionate, and then he read the part, and he's like, I think I can bring something more to the part, and we improvised a lot around that, and I knew that he definitely was the right one. I tried to cast more comedians from Awkward, but sometimes their schedule didn't allow it, or our schedule didn't allow it. But yes, it was. I had my eye on the Awkward comedians, and I did want to cast them.
Was there in a parallel universe, were there other choices that you had, or it's always fun to know about what could have been in a parallel universe?
For sure. For example, Shaden.
Yes.
Shaden Fak was supposed to just have a cameo and
she's fantastic in Exit,
the teacher. Yes, exactly. Exactly. So she was supposed to be the teacher in school.
Right.
She's like, this part is mine. I want this part. The part that yells at like 9-year-olds and puts them au coin and things like that. So she's like, it's mine. I want this part. But then she had to travel, and it couldn't happen. It was also in the middle of this whole nightmare she's had with one of her shows being leaked, and then she had like a fatwa against her, and people wanted to kill her. And anyway, so it was not the right timing, clearly, for her. But she. I wanted her there, for example.
Wow. What could have been in a parallel universe?
Yeah, and all the other comedians. So Munya, I wrote specifically for her, the part of Yasmina, because I really wanted this. Even though she's not an actress anymore, it's been over 10 years she hasn't acted, and she's never acted in a film. She acted in some shorts and things like that. But I wanted that person that can play the coldness and the distance and the aloofness of this person that's putting on a mask, but then her eyes betray her. You can see in her eyes that there's a sparkle, and there's like a beautiful innocence, and some kind of a dreamer. You can see the juxtaposition between what she's trying to portray and what she really is within her. So that's how I cast her. For him, I had to look for a lot of actors as well. There was, he's one of the last ones I saw, and I remember that I insisted a lot in seeing him because I had always been, I didn't know him from before, but I had always been very attracted to his eyes. He has such beautiful, beautiful eyes. And I remember that he was traveling, he wasn't there, and I really insisted. And then he went back to Beirut, and he came to the audition. He's like, listen, before we start, I want to tell you that I'm going through a depression. Nothing is going well in my life. I didn't even want to come to the audition, but like, you insisted so much that I'm here, but I don't want to do this and things like that. But all right, let's do it. And and then all of a sudden he does a scene where he's full of life, and he's chaotic, and he's all over the place, and he's funny, and I'm like, oh my god, this guy 5 minutes ago told me like, I don't want to do this, I'm going through depression and things like that. So yeah, our audition was 2 hours and a half. I was trying more and more and more stuff with him, and then I told him, listen, read the script and let me know. And at 5 a.m. I received a voice note. And he's like, hey, I just finished the script right now, and I've been crying, and I really want to do this part. I really relate to him. I feel that this was, this is me, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, I think so, because you're a very vibrant character who's going through a depression. So yeah, I think you have all the elements. And then I put them together, and magic happened.
Wow.
He was like, listen, it's going to be hard to fall in love with her. That aspect, I can't, it's going to be easy for me. I'm like, good. And she was very charmed by everything he is and his, and we did a lot of rehearsals where we weren't rehearsing the scenes per se, but rehearsing the relationship and just, them appreciating each other. And it had to be that when you see these two people for the first time,
It's organic.
you fall in love. Yes, you fall in love with them, and you feel that, whoa, there's backstory here. There's a magnetic attraction here between them, and it had to be built. So we went on dates together, and sometimes I was there, sometimes I wasn't there. They knew of each other's secrets and their inner secrets and their weaknesses and stuff, which allowed them to play with each other and get really intimate. And I really commend them for going the extra mile, especially Munya, as a woman, to go the extra mile with the sensual scenes that involves kissing and some nudity. And I was very careful in letting them know how I was going to film all of these scenes, because I didn't want them to think that there is any graphic element. I needed them to understand that I'm not interested in portraying sex as something. Okay, pornographic is a very big word, but something very graphic and visual. But I was going for something very sensual, where you feel the touch on the skin and you feel the beauty of love. That it goes beyond sex and it becomes really like love. So yeah, I really commend them for going the extra mile to do that, because I know it's not very easy in our country, especially for a woman. Some actresses that I was talking to were loving the script, but telling me we will not do these scenes.
Wow.
And it's like I understand that and I respect that, but you also have to understand that the film is not gonna work so much if you don't feel that these people cannot keep their hands off each other. They're all over each other, and there's something so ecstatic about them kissing and them sleeping together. It needed to be felt. It's a love story. It's a great love story, and it needed to be felt. So anyway,
fantastic.
Then the kids was the challenging part, because the kids, you're looking for kids that not only are good actors, but kids that actually look like them, and you can believably think that this is this is the same person. She was she had this maturity and this calmness that was really in line with the character of Yasmina. So it was great. When I saw her again, her eyes, I was like, wow, this this child has something. She knows how to communicate emotions. She knows how to play. She knows how to improvise. Him, he's a Nino. He's like really little Nino. So actually, I was auditioning his sister, but he came along. He was coming with his sister because he's from the south. So his mom was driving and she had to go somewhere else afterwards with him. So she brought him along. So I auditioned the sister. She's great, but she was way too young. She was like 7 or so, way too young. But then I see him, waiting for her. I'm like, hey, wait a second, who's this guy? He's like, oh yeah, I'm her brother and things like that. Again, beautiful eyes, very charming kid. So I started auditioning him, and when I audition kids, I don't do the scenes. I talk to them to get their vision of the world, of love, of family, their country, their parents, their siblings, etc. And him, he was all the time. He was like, yeah, my ex-girlfriend and I, we used to do this. And I'm like, wait, your ex-girlfriend? He's like, yeah, but I don't talk to her anymore. Like what she did to me, like really, no, I don't talk to her anymore. I'm like, oh my God, what happened? She's like, yeah, my friend, just like his friend. She talked to his friend and not, it's like whatever. So, something extremely silly, but he's like, yeah, I used to do this, I used to do that, blah, blah, blah. So, and I'm talking to him about like how he felt in the relationship and love. And he said, this was years ago. Like, stop bringing me back to that. I'm like, you're 9. What do you mean it's years ago? But yeah, very playful and very smart kid. He was like, I will do the film, but I need to keep doing my homework. I'm like, do whatever you want, man. keep doing your homework, of course. Like, yeah, because I have straight A's, and I intend to keep it that way, and things like that. And then on set, kids they get very fidgety, and especially him, he's kind of all over the place. So we would play a game where I would tell him, I don't know, like 273 divided by 12, and then that would take him like a solid 15 minutes. And then he would come back and would be like, da, 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 da. I'm like, great, now here's another one.
Wow.
So yeah.
How magical.
A lot of
things fell into place. What a blessing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I did one. Yeah, go ahead, Ali.
So in your documentary about Costa Brava, I mean, you see how many times that film almost didn't get made. Like so many times, so many things went wrong, and they hit the wall, and they couldn't get their actor, they couldn't get the money, they couldn't get location. So many things went wrong, and if there was a documentary like that about your film, was there ever a moment where you felt like you hit the wall, or like you were like, oh, this is the end, this is not going to happen?
Well, we shot during the war, so it wasn't the full-scale war of September, but it was weeks before.
Oof.
So we constantly had this threat, and my producers were very careful before green-lighting the film, because they said if we start the film and there's like a major war and Beirut gets bombed and all of that, which ended up being the case shortly after, we're going to have to stop, and it's going to be very hard to resume. So it might be that the funds we put into it are going to be completely lost. So this is a major risk.
Wow.
And again, you're checking the news, and the rhetoric is getting heavier and heavier, and more inflammatory. So it's really, there was a bit this vibe and this energy on set. So I would say this was the biggest challenge in terms of Lebanon being an obstacle, but it wasn't as Costa Brava, who was dealing with a gazillion things at the same time.
I mean, but the war aspect too. I mean, like, I wouldn't call it a war. I mean, it's like bombs falling over, your head and destroying random buildings here and there. How do you make this movie then and stay so focused in on it and in the zone when the news is trying to pull you away?
That's the beauty of it, is that you get yourself lost in the details of, is he going to wear a blue apron or a white apron? Let's talk about that. That's a nice problem to have. It's like you lose yourself in the making of the film, and that provides a very healthy distraction from everything happening around you. But also, I completely agree that it's a privilege to be able to say, let's worry about the color of the apron when the South is getting heavily bombed. We just happen to be shooting in Beirut, and a very Beirut-centered story.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very aware of the privilege, but that's what kept my sanity. And it was the same during post-production, because I was editing the film with our American producers in LA. That was the one aspect we did outside of Lebanon, and it was happening exactly during the months of the war. And it seemed that, like, I was afraid every day. Like, I would turn my phone off in the morning and then just go and work, and then turn it on at night, and I would spend the whole rest of the night until like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. just watching the news and watching the videos, and having my heart broken over and over and over again within the span of that night, until I put my phone away and the next day it starts again. So it was, in a way, I was like, what the hell am I doing? I'm here, worrying about this cut and that cut when my country is burning completely. And some of my actors, for example, the child Nino was displaced multiple times.
Oof.
He lives in the South, and he was displaced. And I would check on him constantly, and I would talk to him, and I would feel a true coming of age during these 2 months, and him really maturing and seeing, like, he's like, oh, my village was bombed, and then sending me videos of you know smoke just like 2-3 kilometers away. And he's like, he told me once, I haven't slept in 7 days. Like, oh my
Oh,
god.
Poor kid.
Yeah, getting displaced, and then they went to
Mhm.
Shuwaifit, so a bit further north, and then in the end they just went to Tripoli. I spoke to his mom. She's like, we just went the northest we could get because I cannot do this anymore. Like, I have I have my kids and things like that, and the father was still staying in the south because he was working. His work is there, so very, very difficult. And I'm sitting here, choosing the best take of this child actor for my film. But this dichotomy is both, it's a blessing and a curse at the same time. It's like, I'm privileged that I can worry about the cuts, but at the same time it really makes you question what the hell you're doing.
Mhm. I mean,
yeah.
Cyril, you've been on a life journey doing so many different things between your engineering background and all the things you've experienced in your life. And I think it's because of all the things outside of filmmaking that happened that you were able to make a beautiful film about something meaningful. I don't think a filmmaker can be in a bubble without any other life experience, because then what are you going to make a movie about? Like, you can make a movie that's beautiful and makes sense and has an interesting story, but in order to get that true inspiration and the true art, it has to be about something reflected in your own personal life. And you can only get that by experiencing life in the fullest. However, I do have one of the quotes from one of your films. I forget where I heard it, but the older gentleman is like, yeah, um why I want to learn about art and surround myself with art, but now I'm surrounding myself with the news, or
Yes.
I'm learning
Yeah,
about what
that's the volcano,
Jaja's
yes.
wearing or something. Oh yeah, and the volcano, yes, film, right?
Yes,
That's
yes,
Munya's dad, right? So
exactly.
um, yes, that really, like, it hit me because it made me really think about, oh, how much time are we wasting just being involved with all the news and politics and day-to-day stuff that doesn't really matter, instead of focusing on the things that we could really raise our potential and make our lives better.
Very true. Yes, and you see that in Lebanon right now, for example, the whole debate, every conversation is there going to be a war, like a round two, or is there not going to be a round two? Or is it going to be before the Pope arrives or after the Pope arrives? Is it going to be before Christmas or after Christmas? What is, it's constantly, you feel that there's this constant questioning that the politics have invaded our lives so much that that's why I also like the scene in Volcano, and I chose to have it because worrying about something else becomes a privilege. Him saying, like, I just want to nurture myself with art and with with movies, with architecture, with literature, with stuff that any human being needs for their fulfillment or their development. And it feels that we're not always given that luxury, even though it's not a luxury, but that luxury in Lebanon, because we're constantly worrying about the news, and it seems to be very present in all the in our day to day lives and our daily conversations. And yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame that it's like that. And of course, in Lebanon, everyone is a political expert, and during COVID, everyone was a health expert. During the war, everyone is a strategic expert.
Mhm.
Now, it's we have so many expertise depending on the hot topic of uh, of the
Is that
moment.
why
But
most
but yeah,
Lebanese
it's
go
a
into
shame.
consulting?
So
Is that why
sorry, come
most
again.
Lebanese go into consulting?
Exactly.
We're experts at being experts.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Cyril, your film, again, fantastic. You've gotten a lot of praise for it too, and you took it to film festivals. And, like, what was that process like, seeing the reaction to the film? it's one thing for you to spend years making this film, but then seeing that it is connecting with so many people, how does that make you and your team feel?
Well, extremely happy. Of course, it's a great honor because the Lebanese people who have seen the film, I've received a lot of feedback that this film is an accurate representation of our joys, our pains, our sorrows, our aspirations, and it feels very rewarding when I hear that because I'm trying to make a film that, of course, can touch audiences all over the world. But it's very important for me that Lebanese people who watch the film don't say like, "Ugh, this is this is not us. This is really tailored to appeal to Europeans and Western audiences," which is really not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get to them, but through the beauty of everything we stand for, everything we experience, because I do think that our entire existence is inspirational and tragic and dramatic and humorous and funny and sad and everything at the same time. So that's been quite rewarding. Then when we show the film in various different countries, there are some countries where, for example, in Germany, I remember a bunch of Germans were saying like, we never had that image of Beirut. We have a different image of Beirut, and I know exactly what they're saying.
Camels.
Well, it could be like something that is much more conservative, or like more gloomy. As if we're just sitting here just experiencing tragedy day in, day out. Without having no, sometimes it's a beautiful place, and sometimes it's actually a great place that we don't want to leave, and it's painful when we leave it, and we're attached to it, and we can't explain why, and we wish we didn't have that attachment, and we hate the fact that we have this attachment, but at the same time we feel proud of this attachment, and we feel proudly patriotic and supportive of our country and our people. So this extreme this complex range of emotion is not something that they're very familiar with. So they're like, this is kind of other audiences relate a lot to leaving versus staying, or so there's different things that people pick up on. I know in France they were resonating a lot with bringing children or not, which was quite interesting. So sorry. So so yeah, it feels that different audiences see different things in the film according to what they are going through, and also I find it quite interesting that some people find the ending devastating and very sad, and other people find it very joyful and happy and full of love, and they're like, we want to hug the world, and we feel so much hope and so much optimism. And I think that for a film to make you feel both at the same time, and making a valid case for why you're feeling one or the other, is the magic of cinema, and what I would like to achieve in cinema. It's Robert Bresson that said, the French director, who said, I'd rather people felt my films before understanding them. And that I think is the beauty of art. It's like you feel something, but then you can't quite explain it.
It also ties back to the lesson that your grandfather taught you.
Correct.
Wow.
Correct. How you make people feel, and how people. Yeah. We say sometimes that you don't always remember people, but you remember how they made you feel.
Yeah, 100%.
I had a quote I just wanted to read to you and get your reaction from. This is from the Pope. One of cinema's most valuable contributions,
the new one, yeah,
is helping audiences consider their own lives, look at the complexity of their experiences with new eyes, and examine the world as if for the first time. In doing so, they rediscover a portion of the hope that is essential for humanity to live the fullest.
That's very true. That's I completely agree, and it goes also a bit in line with what Roger Ebert the film critic said. He said movies are just empathy machines between cultures. So I could be an American white guy sitting in Chicago and crying my eyes out for a little Nepalese girl that I'm watching in a film, and then I can understand her struggle, and I can empathize with her struggle, and that ultimately makes me a better person, because I feel more empathy for different cultures, and I understand where they come from. And I think this is what the Pope was referring to, uh, about this cross-cultural exchange that can only be accessed through movies and through cinema. And I think this is why films have this responsibility, this moral duty and responsibility uh, to create this empathy between cultures. And I'm going to give you an example. There's this Tunisian film that's called The Voice of Hind.
Yeah, it's a fantastic movie.
You've seen it, great.
Yeah.
For me, this film, which is a blend of documentary and fiction, which features the real life phone call that 6-year-old Hind Rajab made to the Red Crescent as she was being bombed and she was agonizing. Really, very, very dramatic film. But I feel that if this film is shown to the other side, I feel it can actually do something. It can. The problem is that this film is not going to get shown to the other side, and they're probably going to do their best not to show it. It goes.
Would they even
goes
empathize
also,
with it though? That's the question as well. It's like, because they've been.
It's very hard not to. It's very, 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 very hard not to. It's a 6-year-old who really has nothing to do with any of that.
Yeah, but these are the same people who, when you you tell them about what's going on. First of all, when you say the other side, you mean Israel, right? Like the people of Israel.
Yeah, no, even like any supporter of the ongoing conflict from any side.
A supporter would be different, yes, because they've not been as brainwashed as the people of Israel, and because over there they look at Palestinians as just not non-humans, which feeds into them not being able to empathize with them at all. The propaganda machine of the Zionist has well constructed. It's crazy how good they are at it. The fact that they've reached the point where they can make humans think of other humans as not at all close to the same image. No, there are some physical similarities with certain ethnicities from the Israelis, especially the ones from the local regions originally.
Of course.
The fact that they can be put in those situations and be like, they're also inflicting that harm. They're literally on the ground. They're the ones taking the shot, and even if it's a kid, they don't care. And they're showing.
But don't you think that this film humanizes? Because if I tell you 10,000 people, okay, sure,
just a number.
15,000 people, 20,000 people, 20,000 children have died as a result of, I feel this film humanizes, the fact that it's just one person, one single story, and it's her voice, and she's really just asking for help. The only thing she's saying is, I'm paraphrasing, of course, I'm 6-year-old, everyone around me is dead, I don't know what to do, there's blood everywhere, there's scary sounds, it's getting dark, please come help me, I just want out. This is really the extent of her phone call.
No, I understand that. Maybe I just have a different viewpoint on it, but I think, but to be honest, the thing that I can actually share that has worked is learning through experience, because we've actually had a guest on the show, Michael, I forgot, Schuster.
Sure,
I forgot. Yeah.
Sure,
so he's originally a Jewish comedian in the US, and he's come from like a Zionist background. His whole family was just like supporters of Israel, who he used to be one. But then at one point during one of the camps that they do, was like for training or whatever, he was there, and some of the people who from the US, the Israeli military, came and started practicing on them what they did to Palestinians. and then they told him this is what we do to Palestinians, and that's where he, like, he woke up. He just, it connected in his head, and no,
Yeah.
oh wow, it just connected in his head, like after facing the same experience as the Palestinians, instead of listening or watching it, he experienced it. He felt what they felt. He's like, wow, this is insane. They cannot, and he just completely switched after that. So, Anna, maybe that's just my personal perspective, but I think learning from experience is different than watching other people's perspectives, especially if it's someone's perspective that you don't really
Agree
care.
with to begin with. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
No,
you
no.
don't
I
care
see.
about.
I see your point. Yeah,
Yeah,
because it's coming from within. What you're describing, by the way, is the plot of the Act of Killing, the documentary
Mm-hmm.
of Joshua Oppenheimer, which was shot in Indonesia,
Mhm.
and it's essentially what he did is he went back and mingled and befriended the people who were in charge and who had killed. It said that they killed over 1 million people, but killed, not necessarily sitting behind desks. They were actively,
Mm-hmm.
They were the ones
you
doing it.
know, yeah, them and their army, and they were on the field. It's
Yeah,
not, someone, sitting and just pushing a button and killing 1 million people. And in the most horrendous ways. Of course, they were torturing, raping, humiliating, everything, the whole atrocity, the whole range of
yeah,
atrocity was there. So he befriended them and told them, hey, let's do a documentary where you show me how you killed these people. Okay. And for them, it's a source of pride. For them, it's like, let me show you what I did. Let me show you
yeah,
what I did to
yeah,
these
yeah.
subhumans, these,
There's
and then
similar
they
interviews. There's similar interviews with like previous IDF members who
correct,
participated in the Nakba, Yannick, and the way they talk about it as well is just insane.
with pride. It's
Hey,
with
and it's
pride.
like, how, what, what's going through your head, يعني, حتى that you can just do this to people? What? How are
Exactly.
you? How do you reach this point of like lack of humanity where you're capable of doing this? Yeah, I understand if maybe okay one time and then you feel remorse, but it's not, you do it to multiple people and you're still not feeling anything. You're a broken person at that point. There's something wrong with you.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah, because in their narrative, this whole thing is a response to the one event of October 7th. So it's just it's it's like, first of all, you started this. I'm talking
yeah,
from their
Mm-hmm.
perspective, of course. It's like, first of all, you guys started this. We had nothing to do with Gaza. We left you in peace 20 years ago, 15 years, yeah, 20 years ago now.
yeah,
And instead of building your community, you've been plotting for the past 20 years how we're going to break the wall and go kill as many Israeli citizens as we can. So this is a response, and it needs to be a crushing one, so that the 3 generations to come don't even think of of doing anything. So I think this is how they're approaching it. But to go back to the act of killing, which also goes in line with the story you were telling about
yeah.
reenacting
Michael.
and reliving, is that by doing that, you see over the course of the film that they start realizing what they really did. And even though there's no danger whatsoever, they're proudly reenacting, and he's not interfering. He's not saying like, "Don't you think that was bad? Don't you think that was painful?" Not doing anything. It's just them reliving, and in a very humorous way also, because he allows them to reenact, but using different genres, film genres, because they're movie fans. So they like westerns, and they like horror, and they like thrillers, and they like action. So they choose a specific genre, and then they're just reenacting, following the rules of this genre. So they dress as cowboy. It's a crazy film, but it's a masterpiece of a documentary, really. And it goes in line with what you're saying, that unless the oppressor lives the same thing, even with no danger whatsoever, it's there's no way they can realize and acknowledge the pain that they have inflicted on others. Or not, there's no way, but it's it's uh, it's more unlikely to happen.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, I want to pivot to last question. I have to go see the new Paul Thomas Anderson movie later today, but
Oh
um,
wow, you're gonna have a great time. Great, great. great influence on me, Paul Thomas Anderson, ever since I discovered him with Boogie Nights. No, that's not true. I discovered him with Magnolia, and then I went back to Boogie Nights. He's been my favorite American filmmaker, working filmmaker right now.
Tell us about like the pressure of making another movie now too. Like you're on this high. You've had a lot of success with this film. It's so good. I mean, it's, perfect movie. And so what is it like for you right now to like, oh my gosh, now there's this expectation of me. Before people didn't know about me. People didn't know that I could do this. Now that I did this once, how am I going to do it again?
They say that, they say that the first, if you think the first film is tough to make, wait till you get to the second one. And if the second one is also successful, good luck with the third. So it seems that it never gets easier. But I think that, yeah, it's gonna be a challenge for sure. It's gonna be a challenge because it feels that everything that was burning and that I really wanted to say, I put in this film, and then you find yourself like, okay, so what should I do next? And you have to be very careful with what you're going to choose. That's why right now I'm looking at a bunch of books. I'm seeing if that if I can adapt something, if there's something that speaks to me. Also, what kind of, I'm always looking for the question that I cannot find an answer to, that is that reflects what I'm going through in my life. So this past one was about kids, bringing kids, making a family, marriage, love, all of that, especially in the Lebanese context. Before that, it was about the role of art in times of crisis, how art can heal, what's the utility or even futility of art when living in that context. The one before had to deal a bit more with old age and what remains. When you're close to the finish line, how to deal with grief, can love overcome grief and pain and all that. So I guess I'm looking now for that next question that I just cannot find an answer to, and that is representative of what I'm going through in my life. But it tends to be very stories that mix comedy and drama, that mix genres, and that oftentimes have Lebanon as a backdrop. So it might be something in that same in the vicinity of that, but something different, like not necessarily a love story, but a different set of characters. I don't know. It's a bit too early to answer that, but I have a few ideas, and I'm still waiting to see which one sticks and which one makes me go deeper in the questioning.
Well, I can't wait to see what you come up with next. I mean, we could keep we could keep going on and on with this podcast, but this is a great place to wrap it up, tie it together. Thank you so much, Cyril, for your time. Saeed, is there anything else before we wrap up?
No, I think I've asked all my questions. It's been 3 hours. Let's get this wrapped up.
Oh yeah. It's been 3 hours. Yeah. So sorry, audience members, we kind of forgot that this was supposed to be a concise, podcast, and we just went into everything really from Lebanon to regional conflicts to life itself. But no, it was really a pleasure talking to both of you.
Thank you, Cyril. It's definitely been a roller coaster of emotions, like your movie.
Thank you. Well, yeah, the film will be out in cinemas in Lebanon end of January, and then in Europe starting February. It's all the different European countries, and in the US I still don't have the date, but I think it's going to be closer to the spring. Mid-spring or something like that.
Check it out. Yes, if you're listening, watch it. Most definitely, don't skip it. And until the next one.
Thank you so much.
Peace,
Thanks,
guys.
Cyril.
We
We're out.
camera.
All right.
Bye.